Valenzuela, Cotabato State University, MSU Maguindanao, UM Iligan. Uy, it's all over the
Ako po,
Philippines.
Ladies College po.
Marinduque, Colegio, Samis, Ateneo. All over the Philippines. And Baliwag, Ramon Magsaysay. Yep. Winsu.
May Ladies College din po. Sa
Ano?
Cagayan de Oro. Ladies College
Artist
sa Cagayan de
Pillars.
Oro.
Yeah.
Yes
Di
po.
ba may branch ng UM, anong UM na noon? May branch ng CQA dyan, right? Bakit hindi kayo
Yes, sir,
dyan nag...
meron po. Ay, may face-to-face po, pero ayaw po kasi busy.
Ah,
Busy, di makaya sa budget. Tapos ano yung gasolina ang taas.
medyo pricey kasi yung ano, no? Face to
Oo,
face.
mahal. Oo, mahal
Aha.
po siya.
Kasi madami yung ano, madami ang babayaran kasi pag face to face. As compared to online, konti lang yung sa-
Oo, yes po. Pero pagkakaalam ko, parang 50-50, morning 50, morning 50, tsaka afternoon 50 ata.
Okay. Yeah, okay. No, various na, ang dami pa lang ano, it's para siyang melting pot ang center ng ano, schools. I see some faces. Jenny Rose. Si Mary June kahapon pa to nag-open to ng cam. Si Ma'am Primy.
Ano po?
Madeline. Ito si Madeline. Ano to? Is this ano? Babae ba or lalaki? Sorry.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Is your name Madeline?
Bali, Gmail lang po ng kapatid yung nagamit ko sa laptop.
Okay. Kahapon, dalawa yung nakikita kong naka-on ng cam. Si Mary June at saka yun si Gabriel Adrian. So sila.
Good evening,
mga
sir.
malalakas ang internet connection. Si Sir Jess Makasi. I see some faces. So, it's good na nagpapakita naman kayo ng mukha kasi this is an online class. So, hindi talaga tayo makakapag face-to-face. At least, we see each other online. Yan, si Lina Rose, Charlene. Yan. Kilala ko to si Charlene kasi ka-workmate ko to under our office. Johanna Andal at saka yung isang Johanna. Mabagal net, sir. Kaya naka-off cam. Pasensya na po. Make sure lang ha, pag naka-turn on kayo ng camera or even ng microphone, do not do some, scandalous things. Nangyayari. I've had many experience of that. Diba? Maulaw, sir. Yeah. That's fine. Let's wait. Okay. Hi, Nurhan. Ay, si Nurhani. Nurhani is my classmate before. Hello. Yeah, I remember you. Okay. Ma'am Giselle, can we start na?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So to formally start our review this night, let's start it with our opening prayer.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Ma'am Giselle, allow me to share my screen, please.
Yes, sir. Okay na po, sir.
Okay. So, we stopped here sa social work helping models and approaches. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So social work helping models and approaches. Okay. Not before. Yesterday, we have discussed so many things, right? We have discussed about the history, all the chapters, I guess from chapters 1 to 7. Right? Nag-air ko, Ma'am Rachel.
Lagay mo doon. Opo, balik mo.
Yeah. So yon, chapters 1 to 7, we have discussed that yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Check ko lang ang orange book. Yep, 1 to 7, we have discussed that yesterday. And for today, we hope to discuss two topics or two chapters. Chapter 8, the social work helping models and approaches. And then the chapter 9, the generic tools in the social work practice. And then for tomorrow, we will be discussing the remaining two topics and highlights of the RA 4373. I'm not gonna be discussing itong ecological map. This will be discussed in the helping models. Kasi included ito sa appendices ang i-discuss ko. Then na-discuss ko na din itong traditional at saka secondary methods in the social work kahapon. Itong selected behavioral and social science theories in social work, di ko na siguro to i-discuss because this will be discussed further in your HBSE subject. Okay? And itong social work ethics in the International Federation of Social Workers, I will not also be discussing this one because this is just, these are just mere statements na kailangan nating i-follow as social worker. So this needs not to be discussed. And ang i-discuss ko na lamang ay itong RA 4373 for tomorrow. Some of the highlights of the RA 4373. Okay? So, yun. Social work helping models and approaches. There are various models and approaches we use in the social work practice. Saan usually nagagamit itong models and approaches? In terms of the helping process. Saang part siya nagagamit itong helping model? Sige daw. Assessment. What else? Intervention, correct. Okay, nagagamit usually ito sa intervention. How would you intervene with your client? It is through the models and approaches that you use. Okay, in the assessment, that is backed up with our knowledge-based foundation in the various theories. Okay, theories in psychology, in criminology. So yun, pwede dong pumasok si assessment. But in terms of intervention, we have these helping models and approaches that gives us strategies and techniques on how to intervene the different types of clienteles we have. Okay, medyo madami-dami to. Okay? Sige. And then, Also, madidiscuss din itong mga models na to when you have your social work practice 1, 2, and 3. Or the casework, group work, and CO, area 1, area 2, 3, area 3, 4, and 5 in your upcoming schedules. Okay? So first model, I see some members of the church, Sister Victoria Bughaw. Hello, ma'am. Yeah. One of the examinees natin sa social work ay isang madre. Si sister, nakalimutan ko yung pangalan ni sister. Okay, very intelligent as well. Okay, first model, we have the direct provision model. So pag sinabi nating direct provision model, what interventive models is really applicable sa direct provision model? It's may 6 na interventive models. Na-discuss natin yun kagabi. Anong interventive models ang directly related to the direct provision model? Ano yun? It's the resource provider. Correct. Resource provider. Tama. So the direct provision model, it's like a resource provider ang role natin dito. It is the enhancement of the client's social functioning through the direct provision of material aid useful in eliminating or reducing situational deficiencies. Material aid, napakaklaro, material aid. Material aid could be financial assistance, cash or in kind, okay? Employment, shelter, medical care, or skills training, okay? Yun yung pagka-specify dito ng direct provision ng material aid sa direct provision model. So simply, social workers, these are the services, material aids present in our agency na pinoprovide natin sa kliyente natin. So that's basically it, direct provision, providing directly the service from our agency. Okay? So yun, marami tayong cash assistance na binibigay, AX, yun, ano ba? Sa shelter, madaming forms of financial assistance tayo. Employment, livelihood, then shelter in terms if dito sa amin yung shelter din kasi could be in the form of financial assistance. Then medical care, yun, kailangan ng, especially if our clients are PWD, so kailangan ng wheelchair. Yun. Then skills training, okay, providing skills training to our clients. So, yun. So basically, we are doing resource provision, EAP, okay, Educational Assistance Program. Sa amin dito, we dub that one as EDA, Educational Assistance. Yep. But it's still the same. So yan, pwede yan, under that, material aid. Okay? So it's also called resource provision. Kasi yun na lang yung pinaka-simplest explanation of that, ha? Medyo madali lang kasi intindihin yung direct provision model. Pangalawa, intersession mediation model. This is the process of negotiating the service jungle for clients. So, pag sinabi natin service jungle, this refers to the networks of services or network or agencies present for the clients or for our client. What we are going to do here is to negotiate those services for the advantage or for our clients to grab it. Okay? When we say intercession, anong ibig sabihin yan? How does it differ to mediation? At saka, bakit sila tinawag na intercession mediation model? Sige daw. When you intercede, what do? You connect. Okay, nandun na sa presentation. The social work, correct. The worker connects the client to the needed services in the system until he has availed them. So yon. When you intercede, you connect the client to the services or agencies na kailangan ng kliyente. Si mediation naman doon, yung role natin, we are there as a third party. Okay? third party tayo. What is needed is a third party who will mediate between the service demand and the service supply. And where appropriate, assist the agency to provide more adequate and responsive services to the clients. So, we connect the client to the services or to the agency, and then at the same time, we acted as a third party. Okay? Para makamit or ma-achieve ng client or ma-receive ng client ang services na needed niya. Okay, this does not mean na outside. Pwede din yang within our agency. Okay? So yun, that's basically it. We are working as we are connector and at the same time a third party here sa intercession mediation model. So that is somehow related to the yung kay Williams-Works na interactionist approach. Related na din yan doon. Okay, number 3, mobilizing the resources of client systems to change their social reality. So problems are not always due to the personal inadequacies. Wait lang ha. But often to deficiencies in the social reality. And that if people are to be helped, the target of attack should be the latter. The use of clients' own resources is underscored in changing aspects of his or their social reality, which can and should be changed. So, the concern here sa pangatlong model is the client with the environment or itong kanyang social reality or social situation. Okay? The social reality or social situation here could be, number 1, lack of basic amenities. 2, low-cost housing, inadequate material assistance, employment opportunities, and others, or alike. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? This is like empowerment approach. Okay? So, you empower our client, you mobilize the resources na mayroon ang kliyente para ma-change ang kanyang realidad. Okay? Example, sabi dito, lack of basic amenities. Okay? If, for example, ang kliyente natin is a group or a community, so lack of basic amenity, wala silang potable water. Kailangan mag-put up ng isang flowing or somehow a faucet na nagpuproduce ng potable water. So, what will you do is, you mobilize them. Baka may mga carpenter sa kanila or baka may skilled worker sa kanila na marunong mag-dug or mag-engineer ng pag-put up ng isang flowing. So, yun. So, you use those resources within your client para i-change ang kanyang reality or para baguhin ang kanyang realidad. Empowerment approach nga. You enable, you empower the person. Okay? Para i-change ang kanyang reality. Crisis intervention approach. Crisis intervention approach, there is no such thing as problem-free state. And life is a series of recurring developmental crises. So everybody, everyone, regardless of who you are and what you are, we experience crisis. This is somehow related to the concept that we see every human being having problems. Okay? So, thus, we are there as social worker. Kasi kung walang problema ang tao, walang social worker. But because may problema ang tao, may social worker. And because may crisis na hinaharap, mayroong social worker that is there. So, recurring developmental crisis, okay? Pwede siyang, later on, i-discuss natin ano yung different types of crisis. Okay? Recurring siya kasi paulit-ulit, pabalik-balik na may crisis na ini-experience ang isang tao or isang kliyente. Okay? Ako, for example, kanina, na-stress ako because I need to finish my the guidelines for na pinagawa sa akin ng isang ka-workmate ko for the NDPR week. However, hindi ko siya nagawa because I lack some other information. So yun, it gives me stress. Okay? So, saan tayo pumapasok as a social worker? Okay? Later, i-discuss natin yan further. We are there para at least to cushion the effect of stress or to prevent yung paglala ng stress. Yan yung pinaka-main role natin. So under crisis intervention approach, we look at crisis as an upset in a steady state. Steady state pa lang tayo. I mean, we are still normally functioning. However, na-upset lang tayo or nagkaroon lang tayo ng imbalance. Wow. Amazing, ma'am. Ma'am, pwede ko ba ngayon? Guys, for a while, give me 5 minutes. So yun, naki-avail ako ng food. Sige, saan tayo? So crisis, yon, upset in a steady state, an emotional reaction and temporary disturbance. Normally, you're still normal, but at some point, you are upset or nagkaroon ka ng imbalance because of that crisis. There's a disturbance in your normal state. Okay? So hindi siya malala pa masyado kasi kung malala na siya, that's no longer a crisis. Okay? That could be a pathology or a disease. Okay? Or a disorder na. So, yung kaso niyan, if hindi siya naagapan, magiging depression, yon. Magiging, ano pa, yung mga malala na hindi na natin yan covered as social workers. Covered na yan ng mga psychiatrists, psychologists. That's why, ang pinaka-rule natin, again, in the crisis intervention approach, to help para hindi lumala yung case ng kliyente. Okay? So crisis intervention, this is a process for actively influencing the psychosocial functioning. We influence the psychosocial. Pag sinabi natin psychosocial, psycho, the person, how he or she thinks, and then the social, the interaction of the person to the environment. So psychosocial, psycho means the person, and then the social, the environment of the person, of individuals and groups during a period of disequilibrium or disturbance or an upset state. Okay? So yon, ginagamitan natin ng crisis intervention. So crisis intervention should commence within 2 to 6 weeks. Ang duration niya should happen within 2 to 6 weeks in duration. Wag na natin yan pasobraan. Okay? Kasi it is expected na within 3 months, dapat hindi lumala yung kaso ng kliyente natin. Okay? Able niya na resolve yung kanyang issues. Now, pag lumala siya, okay, yun, i-involve na natin yan ng other professions, clinical professions. Then, available within 24 to 72 hours, especially if the case is very heavy. Okay, example, na-rape. Na-rape siya. So, nalaman na na-rape siya this time. So, kailangan abrupt tayo or immediate tayo mag-address. Again, a crisis is not just not just in emergency situations or yung mga calamities or natural or man-made calamities, okay? Pwede din also yung yung mga cases na rape, yung sinaksak, yung mga ganong bagay, that can also form part as a crisis. So we should be present there within 24 to 72 hours. So that's 1 day to 3 days. Dapat nandun na tayo, may intervention na tayo. Hala, may nagre-present. Paano ba to? May nagre-present. Nakikita nyo ba? Si Ma'am, Winnie Milian. Ma'am Winnie.
Ma'am Winnie, pasta po ng share nyo, ma'am.
Ma'am?
Sir, override nyo na lang po, sir.
Paano to, ma'am?
I-share, mag-share screen po kayo ulit.
Wait lang. Stop.
Siguro na-printat niya lang po.
Taray, no? Dalawang speaker dito. Ma'am Winnie. This will take over from Winnie. Okay. Yan. Okay na?
Okay na po.
Okay na po.
Okay. Sige. So yan, available within 24 to 72 hours. Kung hindi magiging available yan within 24 to 72 hours, expected mo na ang kliyente mo ay may problema na yan sa pag-iisip. Yun yung pinaka-general notion natin. Okay? Baka kailangan na yan ng, again, psychiatrist or psychologist. Di na yan sakop ng ating profession kasi malala na yung kaso niyan. So, hospital, it is the crisis intervention approach, okay, where social workers use that is present in hospital, like may mga medical social workers tayo doon. Hotlines, pwede, ginagamit na ng mga social workers. Women's desk, may iba na naka-assign doon na workers and more. Okay? It is also called the search and find approach. Kasi pag nagkaroon ng disaster, dapat andun tayo agad. Nakakatawa nga sa office because sa office, yung mga community worker dito, dapat ang sunog ay it happened 6 p.m. for example for today. So 10 minutes from now, dapat andun na yung mga workers or few minutes pa, dapat andun na talaga yung worker. Or pag sabi pa lang na may sunog, andun na talaga dapat yung worker. Even alas 12 ng madaling araw, I have experienced that. Talagang pupunta talaga yung mga social workers doon. Okay. So yon, dapat tingnan nyo na kung what life holds, what the future holds for you soon as a social worker. Dapat be ready with that. Okay? So, ang daming ants. Okay. So yon, search and find kasi nga pupunta ka sa situation or sa scenario and then tutulungan mo yung mga kliyente. Okay? It is phenomenological. It looks into the present, the here and now. It does not look into the past. Hindi siya nag-look into the future. It's the present, ngayon. Ano ang emotions? Ano ang feelings? Ano ang estado ng kliyente natin ngayon? Okay? It is always voluntary. Voluntary yan with our client. Hindi natin pwede i-force ang kliyente natin na halika dito, kandakan kita ng crisis intervention whenever your client is ready. Okay? So, may mga cases ng kliyente natin, hindi, kasi, bakit ang daming kasi maraming forms on how to conduct crisis intervention. Isa na dyan, si CISD, Crisis Intervention Stress Debriefing, yung sa Brown Book. That's one way on how to implement crisis intervention approach. But also, we can do PFA, okay? Psychological first aid, okay? Para at least matulungan natin ma-cushion natin yung effect ng crisis sa kliyente natin. So, it is always voluntary if in case ang kliyente hindi pa tulala pa siya of the case or hindi pa siya makapagsalita or hindi pa talaga siya ready, sabing pa ang kliyente natin. Wag mo muna i-intervene. Bigyan mo siya ng ample time. Okay? Ample time. But wag mong patagalin also. Kasi again, dapat present tayo 24 to 72 hours. Okay? The worker stance here is active. Very active tayo kasi nga ang kliyente natin disturbed. Purposive. Not purposive. May purpose, may direction kung bakit tayo gumagawa ng crisis intervention. At saka committed tayo on that. Kung wala itong tatlo, huwag kang mag-conduct ng crisis intervention kasi kawawa ang mga kliyente mo. Okay? Napaka at stake ng life nila dito. Okay. The goals for crisis intervention approach ay to reduce the immediate harmful effects of the stressful event, yung kanina sinabi ko, to cushion the effect of the crisis, and to help mobilize the latent capacities and capabilities of the persons, yung mga klaro, yung mga resources available within the person, yung capabilities ng person of the directly affected so that he can cope more effectively with the effects of the crisis. So tapping the consciousness of the person. Okay? You mobilize the person. I-change mo yung gears niya kasi tulala siya. Nasa crisis state siya. Pukawin mo. Tama bang pukawin mo? Okay? So, parang ano ba? Mm, parang you are there para pukawin mo yung kliyente mo na gumising ka
Gisingin,
because,
gising.
ano?
Gumising, gising.
Tingnan mo, lumalabas talaga yung pagkakonyo ko. Gisingin na ang kliyente mo ay dapat makapag-isip siya ng tama. Not because nagkaroon siya ng crisis ay hindi na siya makakapag-isip ng tama. So, the target population here is the individuals in crisis, such as yung victims of rape, domestic violence, yun. Pwede ding nasunugan. Kung ang nasunugan lang ay isang bahay. Okay? Then those associated with persons in crisis, like the parents, significant others, families. Oh, yun, associated with the person in crisis. And then those in collective crisis or the community. Or pwede din, itong number 2 ay indirect or hidden victims. Pwedeng tayo as social workers. Yan. May case and then parang nagkaroon tayo ng counter-transference, right? Ang kliyente natin, pagpalagay natin, domestic violence ang case and then lumapit sa'yo sobbing. Mother siya of 8 children. And then, binugbog siya ng kanyang asawa. Ang asawa niya ay nag-cheat. So ngayon, ikaw as a worker, you are also a solo parent. Sir, can we still perform crisis intervention sa mga late reports ng abuse? Hindi. It does not fit na because again, ang kailangan within 24 to 72 hours. So probably ipapakandak mo yan ng psychological assessment ang kliyente mo. Okay? Yun yung nangyayari dyan. Kasi baka later on kasi, meron kasi it's either reintegrated or positive ang tawag nito, positive ang pag-cope ng kliyente or not. Okay? Sige. Yon, pwede tayo. So yon, pag ikaw social worker ka, okay, you happen to have the same concern with your client. Yon. And then na-transfer sa'yo yung feeling ng kliyente mo. Parang nirelieve mo yung feeling na sinaktan ka din also ng iyong husband. So yon, pwedeng mapasa sa'yo yung crisis. So in that case, again, balikan mo si worker self-awareness. Okay? Dapat yung proper decorum mo, dapat talagang alam mo paano i-approach yung case. And then those in collective crisis, example nito ay nabahaan, flood, nasunugan, entire community. So collective because it is community-wide. Next. Okay, ito tayo. Sorry. Okay, helping process in crisis intervention approach. Okay? So itong helping process sa crisis intervention approach, hindi na siya nagkakalayo sa helping process ng social work profession, which is yung APIET. So first, it starts with the assessment of the situation. I-assess mo ang situation ng kliyente. Number 1, you look into the hazardous event. This is the specific and stress-producing occurrence. The hazardous event o yung cause. I know that not the cause. I mean, yung crisis mismo. The crisis would be anticipated and predictable, which are the normal developmental or critical periods and transitional stages. Example niyan ay ang pagbibinata or middle adulthood. Okay? And then pangalawa naman is unanticipated and accidental events. Or ito yung for the normal developmental or critical periods, example niyan yung pagbibinata. Okay? Then for the transitional stages, example nito ay yung getting married, moving into a new place. So you're transitioning. Itong unanticipated at saka accidental events, example nito, pagbaha, nabangga. Yon. Nabanggaan ng truck. So yon. Those are unanticipated at saka accidental. So those creates crisis. So kailangan natin i-assess. Ano yon? Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, the vulnerable or upset state. the subjective reaction of the individual or family to the initial blow, both at the time it occurs and subsequently. So, ano to? Ito yung initial reaction. Okay? Initial reaction nila from the crisis. Example, high level of anxiety, very anxious sila, nanginginig, feelings of depression or mourning. Okay? Yun yung initial reaction nila from the crisis. Okay? Pakinote na lang. The next, the precipitating factor or event, the link in the chain of stress. These are the provoking happenings that bring tensions to a peak and convert the vulnerable state into one crisis. So, what causes the hazardous event? Yun yung ating titingnan. Okay? Example, sa case ng transitional stages, getting married yung concern natin dito. Yun yung hazardous event. Okay? And then, yung vulnerable state natin dito, could be pwedeng ang kliyente natin ay could be getting married, transitional stage. That's the hazardous event. So, ang vulnerable or upset state natin dito ay victim of domestic violence kasi doon pa nalaman ng kliyente natin na mayroon siyang na ang behavior ng kanyang asawa ay mapanakit. Okay? So, could be ang vulnerable upset state nito, ang initial blow niya ay crying or trembling because victim siya of domestic violence out of that marriage. Now, ano yung precipitating factor or link or event that link that chain of stress? Pangaliwa, yan, pwede natin consider dyan si precipitating factor sa domestic violence. Nakuha ba? Medyo confusing. Babalikan ko Getting married, for example, that's a hazardous event. Dito tayo sa transitional stage. And then yung vulnerable or upset state natin dito, trembling, crying, very overthinking, yon. And then yung precipitating factor dito, ang husband nag-cheat or a victim of domestic violence, and then abuse ang ating wife by her husband. And then yung state of active crisis, this is the subjective condition once tension has stopped. So the homeostatic mechanisms no longer operate and the disequilibrium has set in. So dito, after niya mag-tremble, after niya mag-cry, okay, yon. What's next? So, dyan napapasok si active crisis. Okay? Possibly, madedepress na siya. Possibly, tawag nito, hindi na siya kumakain ng tama. Okay? And then, napapabayaan niya na ang kanyang role as a mother sa kanyang mga anak. Okay? Kasi once the tension or once the vulnerable or upset state has stopped, so medyo lumala na siya, naging state of active crisis. Okay? Yun yung kailangan natin i-identify. Yun, dysfunctional. Yes po. Diyan na pumapasok sa state of active crisis, subjective reaction. Once the tension has stopped. Naglalag ang aking laptop. For a while, naglalag. Kasi when I check kasi the chat box, naglalag siya. So, the state, then lastly is the state of reintegration or reorganization. Ito na related kanina sa question ni Sir Gabriel, tama ba ako? Is the adjustment either adaptive or integrative or maladaptive or destructive? So, pag in case, more than na siya ng 3 days ang crisis, ang happening ng crisis. So ngayon, i-assess mo as a worker whether reintegration ba, whether adaptive ba or maladaptive ang coping ng iyong kliyente. Now, pag maladaptive, then that's the time na ipa-assess mo siya sa isang psychiatrist or psychologist or psychometrician para magkaroon siya ng psychological assessment. Now, pag adaptive naman or very integrative, then positive. Walang mangyayaring crisis intervention kasi nga ang assessment mo ay okay naman. Nakakope well ang kliyente mo. Okay? So, ang tendency niyan, for example, pag tumagal siya ng 3 days, so crisis. Example, victims of violence. Okay. Now, hindi mo naagapan, hindi mo nakandakan ng crisis intervention approach. Lumala. So, gagawan mo siya. Anong approach na ang pwedeng mag-apply dyan? Remedial. Pwedeng remedial na. Okay? Kasi very clinical na. Hindi na siya urgent ang concern natin. Okay, next, the treatment approaches, we have the generic approach, specific situational and maturational crisis which do not require assessment of the psychodynamics of the individuals in crisis. So dito tayo pumapasok as social workers. Roles ng mga paraprofessionals dito, non-mental health professionals or tayo, at saka community caregivers. Example tayo dyan. Now, sa individual approach naman, designed for use by mental health professional. Yung individually, yung medyo malala na, so yun, pinapasa na natin yan sa mga mental health professionals. Okay? Next, after assessment, then we do implement the treatment. Okay? Based sa ating assessment, sa case ng ating kliyente, sa crisis ng ating kliyente. So the implementation of the treatment, this is the middle phase that is about setting up and working out the specific task. 2 categories of tasks includes material arrangement tasks. Material arrangement, this means concerned with the provision of concrete assistance and services. Bigyan natin ng food packs. In the case of disaster, shelter, food packs, shelters, clothing, yon. That's material arrangement of tasks or material tasks. The psychosocial task naman, concerned with dealing with clients' feelings, doubts, ambivalence, and etc. Example niyan, kandakan natin ng PFA, psychological first aid, counseling, yon. Diyan pumapasok sa psychosocial task. The treatment techniques na ginagamit natin sa pag-implement ng crisis intervention approach, first is the sustaining techniques. Pag-sustaining, meaning we reassure and encourage. Ang key term natin dito sa sustaining is encourage, predominant, to lower anxiety, guilt, and tension, and to avoid, and to provide emotional support. Just your presence will suffice na mayroon kang technique, ay mayroong sustaining technique sa kliyente mo. Just being there present in front of your client would let your client feel reassured and encouraged na, ay, may handang tumulong sa akin. Now, si direct influence naman, like giving advice, advocating a particular course of action, and etc. Ito, tinuturo sa atin sa social work counseling that social workers should not advise. Hindi tayo dapat mag-advise ng kliyente natin. But in some cases, kailangan talaga ng advice, especially in crisis intervention. Kasi nga, again, ang kliyente natin dito ay in a state of disequilibrium. So, using direct influence, we give advice, ano dapat yung gawin ng kliyente natin, how do he or she should approach the case or the situation, and what course of plan ang dapat niyang i-push through. Okay? Now, pag malala na ang case ng kliyente natin, gagawa na natin siya ng direct intervention. Yung technique na gagamitin natin. In extreme situations such as threats of or attempts at suicide or where the client is deteriorating rapidly. So, direct intervention na yan. So, pwedeng referral na natin to sa isang clinical na psychologist, psychiatrist. That's direct intervention. Or, if we go directly further sa other interventions, we will work with the community or the environment of the client. So, direct intervention. Okay? Now, si pang-apat naman, reflective discussion techniques as long as the client becomes integrated. So, meaning, if positively or adaptive ang... For a while, Okay. So, if positive ang pag-approach or ang pag-accept ng kliyente or ang coping mechanism ng kliyente sa case, okay, pwede natin gawan ng reflective discussion techniques like what went wrong last time or ano yung crisis mo and then how did you cope with it. So, ito, and then positively, naka-cope naman ako, naka-move on naman ako, okay, so that's fine. So, reflective, babalikan kung ano yung naging coping mechanism ng kliyente mo, and then what went wrong, and then what went right, and then i-correct if in case may kailangang i-correct. Okay? So you also acted as a counselor here, or a guide to your client. Then next, parang last na to, the termination. The worker review their progress, focusing on key themes and basic issues. Babalikan yung worker sa termination. Kumusta ba? Na-reach ba yung goal for the group? For the individual, group, or community? And then, ano yung mga key concepts or key themes na na-discuss before na kailangan natin balikan kasi we are doing evaluation at the termination here, and then the basic issues. Okay. Move tayo sa number 5 model. The problem-solving model. Pinaka-proponent natin dito si Helen Harris Perlman. Sa case namin, lumabas to sa board exam. This, it's how people think and manage to cope. Okay? Na-discuss natin kahapon, before discussing the helping process, is yung problem-solving approach. Okay? So, according kay John Dewey, ang problem-solving approach, it's really how people think, or how we think. How we think is rooted from our confusion or doubt of a certain aspect or a certain situation. So then, we move into doing what's right para ma-resolve ang ating confusion or ang ating doubts. So the same thing with problem solving. Sa problem solving, it's usually also an empowerment approach. We let the client solve his or her own problem, and then tayo, social worker, guide lamang with our client. It assumes that the person's problem-solving capabilities or resources have been broken down or been impaired or are maladaptive. That's why kailangan nating, again, itap siya ulit na you can do this. Okay? Kaya mo yan. Masusolusyonan mo yan with your capabilities or your inner na mga capabilities or capacities. Kaya mong i-resolve ang iyong problema. Then the focus of treatment is in helping the person go through the scientific problem-solving process. Nag-undergo siya yung na-discuss last time, na identification of the problem, yung kay John Dewey at saka kay George Polya, and then may relationship din ng classical scientific method. Yun, that's a scientific problem-solving process. So that he will act and resolve this problem with only minimum help from the worker. Yeah, correct. Dysfunctional siya. But kailangan nating i-point out na kaya mo yan. Mare-resolve mo yan with your own. We are just here to help you and guide you. The experience of problem solving may be so significant that the client imbibes and transfer the learning to the other. Wait lang, di ko makita. To the other problems he may encounter in the future, even when the worker is no longer there. So, empowerment approach nga. Remember the stabilization of change. We let the client solve his or her own problem. Teach him how to solve his or her own problem. And in the long run, if in case wala ka na as a worker, able niya na ma-resolve ang kanyang own problem because empowered na siya. Alam niya na paano or ano ang gagawin. Okay? Elements of problem-solving approach, we have 4. The 4 P's. The person. The person is the product of inherited and constitutional makeup. The nurture and nature. We are the product of our nurture and nature upbringing. Nurture, inherited. Nature is inherited. Nurture is how we are being brought up. In continuous transaction with potent persons, forces in life experiences. Our interaction with our environment is who we are as a person. Okay? The problem is the current life situation of the help seeker or our client, which disturbs or hurts the latter in some way. So, ang problema, isang problema na, tawag nito, na napi-feel ng kliyente natin. Okay? Actually, ang problem, it started with people have needs. Okay ito People have needs. Lahat tayo ay may needs. May pangangailangan tayo. Go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. May 8. Actually 5 yon, and then na-improve siya During the 1990s or 1980s, naging 8. Okay? So ano yung pinaka-first? Physiological needs, safety and security, love and belongingness. Tama ba? Ano nga yung 8? Hindi ko na matandaan. Ano nga yung 8? Baka ma-confuse ako. Physiological needs, safety and security, love and belongingness. Ano nga yung pang-4?
Self-esteem, sir.
Self-esteem. Pang-5, STEAM needs. Pang-5,
Self-actualization.
Self-actualization. Tapos,
hindi. Si self-actualization sa bagong revision ay ano na yan, pang-7. Cognitive needs, aesthetic needs. Tama ba ako? May aesthetic yun eh. And then self-actualization. And then last is ang transcendence. You help others self-actualize. Okay. So yun. So, lahat tayo may pangangailangan. Okay? Varying din yung pangangailangan natin. Like ngayon, ang pangangailangan ko ngayon ay pera. Kayo, ang pangangailangan nyo ngayon ay maging registered social worker. So, iba-iba tayo ng pangangailangan. Pag hindi natin na-meet yung pangangailangan natin, nagiging problem siya. A problem is an unmet need. Okay? So, yun. That's another side bit na information. Then the place, particular organization, agency, or social institutions, or where we social workers are employed. Okay, that's the place. MSWDO, NGO, CSO, MGAs. Then the process. The process could follow the study, diagnosis, at saka treatment, or the APIET, assessment, planning, intervention, evaluation, at saka termination. So those are the elements of problem-solving approach. Medyo pareha siya ng elements ng social work helping process last time. Yung the client, the social worker, yon, the problem, tsaka yung process. Tama ba ako? Yung 4. And then there are 2 factors that should be considered in the problem-solving approach. We have the relationship of the client to the significant others or the client to us, social workers, helping the client intervene with his or her own problem. At saka ang involvement ng kanyang significant others or ng family niya, especially sa case ng problem solving. So problem solving means, so paano siya na-attain ang problem solving or yung mga dapat points to consider na ang kliyente ay able or may capacity na implement or execute ng problem solving approach. Dapat mayroon siyang motivation, may capacity at saka opportunity to do it or to resolve his or her own problem. So the problem-solving process, actually do not be confused kasi itong mga problems, itong mga helping process of each models and approaches, hindi na siya nagkakalayo sa APIET natin. Magkakapareho lang din yan. It's just a matter of terms. So the problem, ang hirap din kasi niyan kasi kailangan din natin i-memorize. Kasi yung iba walang evaluation, yung iba walang termination. So yon, kailangan lang talaga ng memory plus yan. Okay? So first, we have the contact phase or the engagement. Sa contact phase, we do identify the problem, that's first, and then we identify kung ano yung goal based sa problem, at saka preliminary contract or emergence of commitment. So out of that goal, gagawa tayo ng plan paano i-reach yung goal, and then you explore and investigate further kung ano yung pwede pang maging resources na tap in the event na mag-i-implement na ng helping contract. So the contract phase, okay, dito nangyayari ang assessment at saka evaluation, the formulation of plan of action, at saka ang prognosis. Ano ang prognosis? What do you mean by prognosis? What do you mean by prognosis?
Findings, parang ganun.
Accurate. Okay. Anong kaibahan ng prognosis sa diagnosis? Sige daw. Anyone?
When we say accurate, sir, is Parang positive siya, sir.
Positive, correct, okay? So si diagnosis, tinitingnan nito kung ano yung
Fine.
case ng kliyente natin. What's the here and now? Ano yung ngayon? Ano yung pagtingin natin sa case ng kliyente natin? So idadiagnose natin siya. Ano yung problema ng kliyente natin? Si prognosis, it does not look at the here and now or the phenomenology or the current situation. However, it looks into the future. Okay? Tinitingnan niya whether magiging positive ba yung impact forecast, correct? Magiging future forecast. If-forecast yung future, whether the predictions, correct? Whether the plan will be successful in the long run. Or whether sa medical field, pag sinasabing prognosis or diagnosis, for example, ang diagnosis niya ngayon ay may diabetes. So, ang prognosis ng doktor niyan, if in case hindi siya magbabago ng kanyang sugar level intake, mapuputol ang kanyang paa. So yung prognosis niya doon, mapuputol ang paa. Kasi ang thinking ng doctor, in the long run, or ano kaya ang pwedeng mangyari sa kanya sa future. So that's prognosis. But sa social work profession, we look into at the lens of making a plan. How will the plan be effective in the long run? So prognosis. And then, after that, action phase. I-implement mo, doon na magaganap ang intervention. And then, lastly, is ang evaluation at saka termination. Okay? Okay, next tayo. Task-centered model. So, it was developed in the 1970s at the University of Chicago by Laura Epstein and William J. Reed. A task-centered model is a technology for alleviating specific target problems perceived by clients, that is, particular problems clients recognize, understand, acknowledge, and want to attend to. So, ang focus ng task-centered model, on the other hand, ay ang task. Ang task ay sumasagot sa specific problem ng kliyente natin. Example, task could be ang problema ng kliyente ay kailangan niya ng financial assistance. Kasi nga, nasunugan siya. So, pwedeng task-centered ang gawin natin. Short term. So, napaka-specific. Bigyan natin siya ng financial assistance. And then, we're done. Okay? May time-bounded. Okay? Napakadali ng problema. But pag medyo malala na yan, di na siya mag-fit sa task-centered. Okay, where the task now is what the client is to do to alleviate the problem. So the treatment concentrates on helping individual clients to achieve specific at saka limited goals lamang na in a snap, mariresolve na agad of their own choice within brief and bounded periods of service. Okay? So madali lamang i-resolve. So, pwedeng gamitan lang natin ng task-centered. Lalo na pag yung mga problema ng kliyente natin ay tangible or material lamang. Material aid, yung kailangan ng present na within the agency natin, ibibigay na lang natin yan. So, yun, pwedeng gawan or pwedeng i-apply natin ng task-centered model. It is designed to solve specific psychosocial problems of individuals or families in short term. Again, short-term, time-limited form of practice. The caseworker and the client reach an explicit agreement. Okay. Sa case kanina, ang problema niya ay kailangan niya ng financial assistance kasi nasunugan siya para pangkain, pang-put up ng isang makeshift lamang na bahay. So magkakaroon ng plan and then may agreement. Okay? So, for example, anong gagawin ng kliyente? Ang gagawin ng kliyente, siya ang maglilinis ng mga things sa kanyang lote na nasunog. And then, ang gagawin ng worker, ang role ni worker ay, siya naman yung magbibigay ng assistance. So, yon. Specific masyado, ano yung roles or tasks ng worker and ng client. To be worked on and also the probable duration of treatment. Lang nito, few months lamang pwede na tong, or actually 1 to 2 months pwede nang duration ng task-centered. It is similar to crisis intervention, but it focuses on task. Kasi sa crisis intervention, crisis. Pero dito, task siya. To be achieved by the client. It may focus on a specific behavior or social environment that needs to be changed. So again, wag iwala ang term na specific. Karugtong yan ng task-centered. Characteristic of task-centered, we have brief at saka time-limited, concentrated on alleviating specific problems, and tasks are carried out from the plan. Ang target natin dito could be the family and interpersonal relations, the social role performance, family and interpersonal relations, the relationship of the person to the environment, the social role performance, how the person how the person portrayed his or her role, is it positive or negative, and then affecting social transitions from, for example, married, divorce, yun, any other transitions, and then securing resources within the client or outside the agency, at saka emotional distress reactive to situation factors, or yung may mga crisis na feel. So, pwedeng dito sa number 5. So, again ito kasi mga intervention models, pwede natin itong emerge. Ibig sabihin na isang model lang will apply for this case. No, we can actually merge them if we see na mag-a-apply talaga yung dalawang case. Okay, ito yung steps on how to conduct task-centered model. So first is the startup, which the client is referred by an agency source, or the client is referred, a referred client. Then, the client applies independently or voluntarily, or the client is not referred or voluntary. Then, step 1, after that, the client target problems identified with the worker. Step 2 is magkakaroon ng contract out of that identification of the problem, where doon malilay down ano yung task, yung plans, target problem, priorities, the goals, practitioner task, duration, at saka schedules. So, napaka-importante ng schedules. Dapat limited lamang. And then after that, the step 3 is the implementation or the problem solving. And then lastly is ang termination. So, see, magkaka-pare-pareha lang yan actually ng help ng process with the other models and approaches. Okay, the features of this model, we have first assessment. Sa pag-a-assess, basic na yan, kung ano yung nalaman natin about assessment, it also applies in the task-centered approach. It consists of finding out the problem, ano yung problema, classifying it, diagnosing it, at saka specifying kung ano yung problema. Then after that is the case planning, where the practitioner constructs a program by making judgments about what gagawa ng programa or program development, si worker with the client, about what changes can be expected to reduce the problem. And then i-implement yon, which the tasks are to be carried out. And then lastly is the task, which is yung activities na kailangan i-carry out ng kliyente. Okay, kasi the task-centered models also does not only apply in individuals. It can also be applied to groups. So the task-centered model with groups, first ay meron tayong preliminary interview, which the problems are elicited, explored, and clarified in individual interviews. So in conducting group work, usually, first, diba, yung mga phases ng grupo, according kay Hartford, diba? Can you still remember that? The pre-group formation, under pre-group formation, meron tayong pre-group phase, meron tayong private pre-group, public pre-group, convening. Yon. So, ang nangyayari kasi sa group work, pwede tayong mag-conduct ng mga individual interviews before natin sila i-grupo. Why do we need to conduct individual interviews? To gather kung ano yung mga commonalities ng grupo na pwedeng ma-resolve siya within the group. Kasi kung sa individual interviews pa lang, alam na natin na hindi fitted itong kliyente natin, wag nating isali sa grupo. Again, may control tayo because we can control as worker as early as possible. We have the initial assessment of the cases of our clients. Okay? Siguro madadiscuss yan further sa group work nyo, but here, hindi ko na lang siguro yan i-discuss further kasi hindi naman yan siya sakop mo ng aking topic. So yan, kakandak tayo ng preliminary interviews or individual interviews kung sakaling fit ang kliyente natin sa isang task group or not. And then group composition, the worker decides who should be in the particular group and the size of the group. Pag sinabi nating group composition, dalawa yung tinitingnan natin dyan. The characteristic ng group members at saka ang size ng group member. May tanong ako, what is the exact, for a while, yan, I leave it you, kasi mag-CR muna ako in a while, iihilang ako. So, I leave you with the question, what is the ideal size for the group?
Seven to 15.
Okay, so ano yung, okay, I see some answers na. Sige daw.
7 to 15, sir.
7 to 15. Okay. Ideal size of a group. Sige daw. Let's see if, ano yung sagot nyo? 7 to 15, 10 to 15. Okay. How about the others? 6 to 7. Yung iba, ano? Wala pang nakakatama. I want an answer na
Ay, size.
7 to 14.
Ay, ang size is 2, sir. 2.
okay. Name me makabangkit. Bakit it depends? Sudan ko to. Sige, Nimi. Noemi. Okay, very good. Okay. So, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin 7 to 15, sir. Or more, yun. Hindi natin pwede. Yeah. Depende. Pag tinanong tayo, what is the exact or the ideal size, ang isasagot talaga natin dyan, depende sa purpose ng grupo or sa goal ng grupo. Hindi natin pwedeng sabihin 7 to 15, sir. Kasi, for example, pag sabihin kong educational group would range around 15 to 30. Diba? So, hindi siya fitted. Sir, remedial group. Ang remedial group would most likely be 5 to 10, most likely. Pero dapat konti lang talaga. So, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin 7 to 15, 10 to 15. Kasi, depende yan siya sa purpose ng grupo. Okay? Kasi, for example, kung remedial, konti lang. Kung sensitivity group, konti lang din. Kung educational group, marami. Pwede yung marami. Or reference group, pwedeng marami. Okay? So, nakadepende yan. If you read the book, wala talagang nakastate doon. I don't know, pero tingnan nyo na lang. But I think, sa pagka-remember ko, walang nakastate doon na mayroong exact or number or ideal number. Actually, nakadepende siya sa purpose ng grupo. Okay? Sige. Saan na tayo? Okay, dalawa yan the characteristic at saka size of the group. Next is the group formation. the members share the problems that they will seek to reduce or eliminate by formulating and accomplishing agreed on tasks. So, sa group formation, this is the first time the group met, diba? If gamitin natin ang definition ni Hartford. So, yon, in the first meeting between all the members of the group, doon magkakaroon ng testing with the worker, and then ano yung mga expectations, and then possibly asking kung ano yung problema, and then ano yung solusyon na dapat take on to address the problem. And then lastly is the group process for task accomplishment, the implementation side, which is working out of the task. Okay, dito tayo. Okay? Psychosocial approach. Si psychosocial, pag sinabi natin psycho, it refers to the individual. And then the social,
Nasa group work.
ayan, tama po yun, ma'am. Iyan, doing, odd number po talaga ang preferred in doing group work. Why? Or members of the group, why? To break the decisions or the voting. Okay? Para may mag-break ng tie. Tama yan, nakalagay yan sa group. Sa group work. But I doubt if nakalagay doon na may exact ideal number. It still depends on the purpose of the group. Okay? Sige. Psychosocial approach, pag sinabi natin psycho, the individual, the behavior of the person, or the person itself, or himself. And then, the social, the environment. So, this one is more on clinical. Okay? It is, ginagamitan siya ng Freudian theory of personality. Okay? Ginagamitan siya ng mga defense mechanism, ginagamitan siya ng ego, structures of personality, subconscious, preconscious, conscious, yon, ginagamitan siya ng Freudian theory of personality. Organismic approach. Bakit siya tinatawag ng organismic approach? Because it is focusing on the person interacting with the environment. Organism, the person. Okay? And then it is one of the diagnostic school of thought because it tends to diagnose the person. It is different. Dalawa kasi yun eh. Functional school of thought at saka diagnostic school of thought. So si diagnostic, clinical. Sa functional naman, this is more on the service side. Then, systems theory approach. Kasi nga, pag sinabi natin systems theory, different levels. Okay? Pumapasok din dyan sa ecological perspective. Micro, meso, macro levels. The interaction of the individual again to the environment. So, systems theory. Homeostasis, subsystem, system, holon. Those are the concepts under systems theory. Gestalt theory. Ano itong Gestalt theory? The whole is greater than the sum of its part. So that's still under world systems theory that focuses on the individual interacting with the environment. It involves differential treatment. Why differential treatment? Because again, this is a diagnostic school of thought or involving very clinical. Okay. Actually, hindi yan topic ko, pero sige na lang. We will. Do you want me to discuss systems theory at saka ecological approach?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay tayo, sir.
Okay. Sa systems theory, pag sinabi natin systems theory, ang kanyang concern dito ay the interaction of all systems. Pero itong sa ecological perspective, ang kanyang concern ay transactions between the different levels. Pag sinabi nating micro, macro, meso, saan siya nalalagay? Nalalagay siya sa ecological perspective. Ang author na ecological perspective ay si Urie Bronfenbrenner. Okay? And then, yon, kanya yung exosystem, chronosystem, kanya yan. Now, ang mga concepts under the ecological perspective, transactions, coping, adaptation, interface, yun yung mga concepts dyan. Now, sa systems theory, iba. We have the equifinality, multifinality, holon, subsystem, system. homeostasis or balance, differentiation, ano pa ba, input, output, throughput. Yon. That's under systems theory. So may pagkakaiba yan. Pero I guess yung teacher nyo or lecturer nyo for the social environment na subject will discuss it to you. Okay? Sige. So yun yung pinaka-basic na understanding natin. Kaiba. Also sa system theory doon si client change agent system, action system, yung anim sa systems theory yon. Okay? Sige, one of the first models employed developed by Gordon Hamilton, so ang author nito ay si Gordon Hamilton, and her associates from the Columbia School of Social Work. So according to Gordon Hamilton, treatment here is focused on the individual and his functionality, how the individual functions. The cause and effect relationships are identified between the individual and the environment. How are they interacting with each other? Again, clinical to by nature. It is concerned with the inner realities. Ang inner realities dito is the psycho and then the social context of the person, his emotional and mental and social processes, and the social context in which he lives. The interaction of the inner realities of the person and then the social context in which he or she lives. It used with clients affected by traumatic incidents. So again, trauma. So pwedeng applyan natin ng psychosocial approach. If we apply the theory of Sigmund Freud, Carl Rogers, so yun, that's already a psychosocial approach. Okay. We now move on to the phases in the psychosocial approach. So first is the initial phase, which is understanding the reasons. First, understanding the reasons for the contact. Ano yung rason? So pag understanding the reason for contact, then therefore we identify kung ano yung problema. Then establishing relationship or establishing rapport with the client. Then you engage the client in the treatment. Motivation versus resistance. Titingnan mo what motivates the client and then what resists the client. And then begin the treatment itself after that. But however, ang pag-treat ng kliyente natin, it started na since the first time na in-interview natin ang ating kliyente. And then, it also involves a psychosocial study or diagnosing kung ano yung case ng kliyente natin. In terms of assessing the client and his situation, mayroon tayong tinitingnan na dalawang diagnosis, three types of diagnosis. The dynamic, etiological, and classificatory. Pag sinabi natin dynamic, examination of how different aspects of the client's personality interact to produce his total functioning. What is the general dynamics? What is happening? Or what is the general view of the situation of the client? Okay, example, ang problema ng kliyente traumatic. Okay. Pagpalagay natin, victim of violence. Hindi tayo lalabas dyan. Victims of violence. So dynamic, bakit siya naging biktima ng violence? So we look into because ang husband niya, because marami siyang anak, because siya, mahina ang coping capacity niya or mechanism. Ang environment niya is very strict. So yon, that's being dynamic. You look into every aspect of the individual or pwede din, might as well look into the inner realities of the person, how the person thinks, behave, feels. Yon. And then number 2 is etiological, which you look into the cause or origin of the difficulty. So ipagpalagay natin domestic violence, bakit siya nagkaroon or victim of domestic violence? So pinaka main reason dyan because of his husband. So bakit kaya ganun si husband? Kasi si husband niya ay also broken family. Ganon. So you look into the etiology, the cause or origin of the difficulty. You dig deeper into kung ano yung pinaka main reason or root cause. And then pwedeng doon ka mag-start ng iyong intervention. And then lastly is the classificatory, which to classify various aspects of the client's functioning and his place in the world. Meaning, aside from you are being dynamic and etiological, you also classify. Classify is like diagnosing. So ano yung case talaga niya? So sa case na yon, domestic violence, victim siya of domestic violence. We classify the person as the victims of domestic violence or women victims of violence, or kung hindi naman, women in especially difficult circumstance. So then we classify the women or woman. Okay? So this and also involves clinical diagnosis, which we classify based on personality disturbance. And then under assessment also is the goal and treatment planning. Next is the treatment. So the treatment, this is to alleviate, last na to for the phases of the helping process, phases of process in the psychosocial approach. So sa treatment, this is to alleviate the client's distress and decrease the malfunctioning in the person's situation system. So yun, this is implementing the activities you have set forth during your assessment or initial phase. So sa treatment process, may dalawang phases. You have the, or types. You have the indirect treatment at saka direct treatment. Pag sinabi nating indirect treatment, the worker intervenes directly with the environment of the client or in the environment of the client. So not really directly working with the client, but on the environment of the client. That's why it is called indirect treatment. Now, kasi nga, ang concern natin dito, the person and the environment. So, sa social, pwedeng si indirect treatment ang gamitin natin. Now, pag psychological or the person, we can use direct treatment. Si direct treatment, this involves direct work with the client himself. The influence of mind upon mind. So, we influence through our minds as social workers, the mind of our clients para mabago sila. How do we do this? It's through the 6 procedures. Number 1 is sustaining. Kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, when we do sustain, we do encourage. We provide supportive remarks. Number 2 is direct influence. In direct influence, we do suggest and advise to the person. Catharsis or ventilation is through discharge of pent-up feelings and emotionally charged memories. Number 4, reflective consideration of the current person, situation, configuration. We help the client understand better present functioning in current relationship. And then number 5, encouragement of the client to reflect on dynamics of his response patterns or tendencies, where we help the client think about the behavior causes. And lastly, we encourage the client to think about the development of response patterns or tendencies, or helping the client understand the contribution of the past and current functioning. Okay? So yun, there are various techniques that we can use to help the client in direct treatment. Okay, we move to the functional approach. Si functional approach, ito yung pinakagamit na gamit sa Pilipinas. Okay? This has been developed in the University of Pennsylvania in 1930s by Jessica, Virginia Robinson, and Ruth Smalley. It is a social casework method for engaging the client through a one-to-one relationship in the use of a social service towards his own and general welfare. The focus of the intervention is the delivery of social. Ito lumabas sa board exam namin. So, the delivery of services or service to the client. This is the common approach used in the Philippines. Pinaka-classic example nito is yung pag may pumunta sa atin, nangangailangan siya ng food packs, nangangailangan siya ng material assistance, yun. Functional approach kasi present siya within our agency. Emphasis was on the relationship. The dynamic use of time, dapat abrupt and immediate yung pag-address natin sa issue. And the use of agency function and the use of our agency's mandate. Kung ang mandate natin ay magbigay ng ganyang type of assistance, then ipo-provide or ibibigay natin yon sa kliyente natin. Now, why does it called functional? Functional because from the term function of the agency, it is the function of the agency to help the person by providing various assistances, okay, to the client. The characteristics of the functional approach includes, first, the psychology of growth, where it sees human being as capable of modifying both himself and his environment. So we look at the person as having been able to develop himself or herself. We look at the person as also other human being na capable of reason, capable of deciding on his or her own, and to interact sa kanyang environment. Number 2, the purpose of the agency guides the social worker's overall purpose. Hindi dapat tayo lumayo. Sa board exam, ang pinaka-key term ko doon, kasi lumabas yung use of time at saka agency function. Automatically, functional approach yan. Okay? So yon, again, sa number 2, it uses the workers, the agency, the purpose or the function of the agency or the mandate of the agency, doon magbabank ang function or ang work ni worker. Then the social work is viewed as a helping process through which an agency service is made available. The principles of the functional approach includes, first, you understand the phenomenon served or you diagnose kung ano yung problema ng kliyente natin. And then use of time phases for the process, duration or schedules. Then use of agency function. Alam natin na dapat we are working within the realms of the agency function. And then the structure of the agency, the place, the time, the policy, procedures. And then the use of relationship, the client-worker relationship or helping relationship. Now we move to the behavior modification, which is helping clients learn new behaviors and eliminating problematic ways of behaving. So dito, again, this one is clinical also. And then this one applies more to children. The elements of behavior includes the target. Pag sinabi nating target, yun yung focus of intervention natin. Example, ang kliyente natin for now, bata. Okay, bata tayo kasi ito yung pinaka-classic example for behavior modification. Violent. So yun yung target behavior natin. Yun yung target ng ating intervention approach. Si antecedent behavior, prior to the problem behavior, bakit siya naging violente? Look into the cause. Kasi bullied siya. So, yun. I-address mo yung issue ng bullying. Consequent behavior. So, sa pagiging violent niya, ano yung nagiging resulta nun? Others will get hurt. Or others will also follow him or her. Or, kung papalalain pa natin sa kanyang pagiging violente, pwedeng makapatay siya or makapanakit siya talaga ng tao. So yon, look into the after the problem behavior. Ano ang pwedeng mangyari or mangyari after niya maging violente? Okay? Sige. So yun yung pinaka-target ng concern natin doon. Techniques natin, papaano i-modify ang behavior ng ating kliyente. First is conditioning. In the conditioning, the learning of a behavior or condition that is associated with another event. So who is the father of behaviorism, the second force of psychology? Sino?
B.F. Skinner.
Again?
B.F. Skinner, sir.
Okay. Hindi ba si Burrus, Frederick Skinner? Sino po?
Pavlov and Jason Watson.
Okay. Hindi ho si Pavlov, Ivan Pavlov. It's John B. Watson. Okay? It's John B. Watson. Now, okay. So, ito, para mas madaling maintindihan or ma-remember, in studying, okay, use coding para hindi kayo mawala. So, sa case ko noon, kasi ang daming theories that I need to remember, ang ginagawa ko, nagko-coding ako. So, in the case of conditioning na theory, ang ginagawa ko, PCSO. Where social workers are also employed. PCSO. Si P. Pavlov, ang kanya ay classical. So, ang SO, si S for Skinner, ang kanya naman ay operant. So, para hindi kayo mawala. Okay? So, yon, tatlo kasi yan eh. Learning by association, learning by consequence, at saka learning by modeling. Pag learning by association, it is kay Ivan Pavlov. Pag learning by consequence, it is kay PC Pavlov Skinner, ay Pavlov Classical Conditioning. Si classical conditioning, yun yung hotdog at saka dog. Okay? And then my bell. Yan yung example nun. Now, si Skinner naman, operant yung sa kanya. The Skinner box. Okay? Do you remember that? Yung may rat na nandun sa isang box. Okay? So, yon. Later, discuss pa natin siguro. Yon. Nawala na ako. So, PCSO. So, learning by association, Pavlov, learning by consequence, Skinner, at saka learning by modeling, si Bandura. Okay? Bandura. Reciprocal determinism. Now, you look into the conditioning. Ano ba ang tinitinan ng conditioning? Ang tinitinan ng conditioning, ang bata ay maniniwala or imomodify ang kanyang behavior base sa kondisyon. Okay? Conditions. Kung walang conditions, hindi niya ma-modify ang kanyang behavior. So that condition could be classical or operant. So hindi ko na siguro i-discuss anong kaiba ng classical or operant kasi doon niya ma-discuss sa HBS inyo. Kasi mayroon niyang unconditioned stimulus to conditioned stimulus, neutral stimulus to conditioned stimulus, at saka conditioned response. Response and stimulus kasi yan. Sa operant naman, we have the positive at saka negative reinforcement, at saka positive at saka negative punishment. Saka extinction. Okay? Sige. So that's it. First is condition. Okay? Through conditions, pwede mong i-change ang behavior ng iyong kliyente or ng bata. So number 2 is reinforcement. Anong kaibahan ni reinforcement kay punishment? Okay. See, in reinforcement, it always increases the behavior of the person. Okay. For example, ang gusto mong i-target na behavior ng person ay maging consistent honor student siya. So ngayon, first grading, ang bata na iyong hinahandle ay naging honor student. So sasabihin mo sa kanya, okay, bibigyan kita ng cellphone. Okay? Pag makaka-honor ka na naman for another grading. So that's reinforcement. Now, reinforcement could be positive or negative. Positive, meaning may i-add ka. Negative, mayroon kang ibabawas. Okay? But ang key term natin there, it will always increase the behavior of the person. Now, si punishment naman, could be positive or negative also. May idadagdag, may ibabawas. However, dito, si punishment, it always decreases the behavior. Example, kung pagiging violente ng kliyente mo, okay, you will be grounded. So that's a punishment. Para hindi niya ulitin ang pagiging violente niya. So ano yon? Is it positive or negative? It's negative. Kasi tinanggalan mo ng chance na makalabas ang bata. Grounded kasi siya. Okay? Now, extinction. Si extinction is completely withdrawing of whatever reinforces a target behavior. Pag ginawa na, for example, violente siya, in just a snap or in just a one act of you, hindi na niya uulitin ang kanyang behavior. Walang conditioning na mangyayari. Okay? Completely mawawala na talaga siya. Hindi niya na ipa-follow. Okay, medyo maraming nag-chat. Okay, sige. Next tayo. The procedures in the behavior modification, we have the initial socialization where you explain to the client what will be the helping process about. The next to that is, or you build rapport, gather data. The next to that is the contract. What is to be worked on? You plan after you have assessed. And then lastly is commitment. where you implement or cooperate fully. Okay, see, magkakapare-pareha lang talaga yan in the APIAC process of the social work helping process. Next is the social worker's roles. Ito yung roles natin or techniques, treatment techniques, if case sa kanina, in dealing with or in using behavior modification model. So first is the direct modifier. Pag direct modifier, you directly uses a technique to the client. So, anong gagawin mo? So, bibigyan mo ng candy, bibigyan mo ng cellphone, bibigyan mo ng coffee or whatever it is. You are directly working or modifying the behavior of the client. The behavior instigator, on the other hand, you do not directly work with the client. However, you are changing the arrangements or influences the situation of the client. Example, in a group, okay, kung sino ang whoever will first be done with this homework, bibigyan ko ng candy. So that's direct modifier. Si behavior instigator naman, iibahin mo ang timpla ng grupo para you do not directly work with you do not directly intervene with the client, but you're working on the situation of the entire group para ma-change ang kliyente mo. Okay? So ano yung example kaya niyan? Example niyan, siset ka ng rules. Okay, bawal malate. Ang malate sasayaw in front. So that's behavior instigator para maging disiplinado ang iyong kliyente. Now, a teacher teaches behavioral modification techniques. Ituturo talaga to. Key term natin, ituturo ni worker kung ano yung dapat gagawin ng isang kliyente. Okay? Or giving advice. Okay, 10th, we have the family intervention. Do you need a break? Okay, sige, break tayo ng 10 minutes. Balik tayo ng 8:06. Okay? Okay, sige. Continue tayo. Okay. The family intervention, we are now on the 10th modular approach. This was developed in the 1950s and then developed this is parang in connection, okay, of the development of family therapy. May nagtanong sa akin last time nito ano nung kaibahan ng family therapy sa family-focused treatment. So family therapy relies heavily on psychoanalytic personality and systems theory. So on the other hand, si family-focused treatment or so-called family casework focuses on the individual family member and the family members being involved in the helping process. Now, si family therapy, ang kaniyang focus ay, that term is generally used by all professions. Psychologists, psychiatrists, criminologists, yon. Other professions, they may use the term family therapy in understanding the behavior of the person and the environment. Now, si family-focused treatment, ito yung native to the social work profession, or we call that the family casework, where there is an integration of family therapy and then mayroong helping process na sinusunod and then mayroong presence of the helping relationship between the client and the worker. Okay? Gets ba yun? So the general distinction is that family therapy and saka family-focused treatment both involves working with the individual and the family or immediate environment ng client. However, itong si family therapy, generally ginagamit siya in almost all of the professions and then native to the social work, si family-focused treatment or family casework. Its process, hindi na siya nalalayo din, includes assessment, planning, implementation, at saka review and evaluation. Okay. Up yet. Correct po. So, genogram. Anong kaibahan ni genogram sa ecological map? Okay daw. Anyone? Anybody?
Sir, ako sir, ang genogram is
Lumabas yun sa mga exam namin.
genogram is based on the gene or the family family tree of the of a family or certain family. Then ecological map is based on the other environment where the client involved with, for example, if the client is a student, so from the school to the house or home, then from the church, so from the neighbor.
Okay, very good. Tama po yan, Mr. Ronver. Thank you so much. So si genogram, nakafocus siya sa family tree, within the family. Okay, bloodline. Now, si ecological map, it goes beyond family tree. It goes, it encompasses the relationship of the family within the community, the society, the politics, the government, and so on and so forth. And then, different authors also say, ito yung pag-understand nila or pag-define nila on what is ecological map, and then also other authors say ito. Okay, but nonetheless, ang konsepto niya ng ecological map, it goes beyond genogram or family tree. Okay, so genogram, it is a diagram to family tree, or just like a family tree. It presents historical and contemporary data on the main figures in the client's interpersonal environment. Okay, so itong genogram, ginagamit siya mostly in the medical field. Okay, so inadapt na lang natin yan sa social work. So, si genogram sa medical field, tinitingnan ang inheritance, ang cause. For example, sa case na to, diabetes. Ang kliyente ay may diabetes. So, tinitingnan na ang cause ng kanyang diabetes ay inheritance. So, gagawa tayo ng genogram. So, paggawa natin ng genogram, si square ay male. Si circle ay female. Okay? Now, si diamond ay pet. And then, usually, nilalagyan niya ng age sa gitna. There are also, yun, basta, wag lang mawala, si square ay male, si circle ay female. Okay? So, nakikita natin dito or matatrack natin dito na itong si Mi ay si kliyente na-inherit niya ang disease, ang diabetes sa kanyang grandma on his or on her mother's side. Okay? Now, in terms naman dito sa social work aspect naman natin, tinitingnan natin ano yung behavior ng kliyente natin or how our client thinks or acts. Okay? And then, titingnan natin na saan pala yun rooted or baka ganun din ang kanyang background or upbringing. So, yun. Okay? So, that's how we use genogram. Now, next is the ecological map. The ecological map, this is a tool pictures the family or individual in the life space and enables us to see the client not as an isolated entity for study but as part of a complex ecological system. So kanina yung sinabi ni Ronver, that is a complex ecological system. So sa case na to, for this model ng ecological map, makikita natin that it goes beyond the family. Okay, mayroon na ditong na-include na dito yung psychiatrist, na-include na dito yung mga kaninunuan pa. Okay? So, yon marami na, hindi na, nagsanga-sanga na. So, yun yung isang indication na ecological map is what we are using. So, depende din yan sa lines. Okay? Kung zigzag, kung thin, thick lines, kung zigzag, most usually may tension. Kung thin line, yung kanilang relationship ay positive pero hindi ganyan ka-strong. Kung thick line ay medyo strong. Kung putol-putol, also may problema sila with the relationship. Kung saan ang arrow naka-head to, doon yung input of tawag nito input of resources from the one person to another. Okay? So sa case na to, sa gitna, yun yung mga edad. And then, na-include pa dito yung teacher ng kliyente natin or ng kliyente. So yun. Napaka-complex talaga nito. May isang another model ng ecological map na hindi din ganito. Sabi niya, hatiin natin into 4, the ecological, the personal, economic, political, at saka social. So what are the aspects there in each subparts? So yon, ibang model din yon. Now it goes, it's an ecological map also because again it goes beyond in more than a family tree. Okay? Sige. Next, now we move to the developmental approach of Emmanuel Trop. The developmental approach, people are not seen as being sick or healthy, but on a scale ranging from socially functional to dysfunctional or inadequate to eufunctional or good functioning. So sa developmental approach, hindi natin tinitingnan ng kliyenteng may problema, kundi ang tinitingnan natin dito, ang kliyente is capable of developing himself or herself. We just need to tap the vast unused potentials of our clients. Major themes of the developmental approach includes humanistic, phenomenological, at saka developmental. So first is humanistic. Humanistic, a view of one human being by another. We see na, for example, kung gamitin natin ng helping relationship of the worker and the client, tinitingnan natin na tayo ay social worker, is not just a social worker, we are also a human being. I-relate natin na tayo as being a human being to our client also na tao din siya. For example, kung tayo ay may problema, ibig sabihin may problema din ang ating kliyente. Kung capable tayo na ma-resolve yung problema natin, capable din ang kliyente na ma-resolve ang problema niya. So that is being humanistic. We see them as a human being like us. Okay? So next is phenomenological. You look into what is happening at the present.
ano ang nangyayari pala ngayon. And then from that, mag-iisip ka na, what are the possible interventions na pwede nating i-apply in the case. Then lastly is developmental. We see people as being able to move forward in a lifelong process of self-realization. Able ang tao na ma-self-realize, provided na dapat bigyan natin siya ng mga skills training or development activities or capability building activities para ma-develop pa more ang kanyang sarili. Okay? So there are various characteristics of developmental approach. So first characteristic, specific kinds of group experiences. Itong group experiences, this means the dynamics that are happening inside the group are viewed as the most effective in the attainment of the enhanced social functioning. The functional modes and how group experiences could be executed, it's through a counseling group, an activity group, and an action group. When we say counseling group, this means the group will discuss common life situations. Pag activity group naman, focusing on activity or pursue a common interest. Pag ang action group naman, this one affects on some improvement in the social environment of the group. Then the next is the common goal groups. So they are being grouped together with similar goals, and that goals is to further develop their capacities and capabilities. Third, the common goal may take in the form of common concern or common interest. So doon nakabang ang common concern, ang common goal sa common concern nila or common life situation, and each of which results in a peer relationship among members. The number 4, the effectiveness of the group goal achieving process is the primary target for both the members and the worker. So ang tinitingnan natin dito ay ma-reach yung goal. So gagawin natin lahat para lamang ma-reach yung goal or the group goal achieving process. The number 5, the group achieve different individual gains. May individual gains tayo. And in social growth within the context of the group goal achieving process. So in the event na nagkaroon kayo ng group work, each individual or each member of the group will receive individual gains or rewards. Okay? So basic purposive processes includes, number 1, the release of feelings. Pwede itong maging this one would relate to the individual gains. The release of feelings, like ma-release yung anger, yung fear, yung guilt na being kept by the clients or members of the group. Next is support. Receiving of acceptance and affection through belonging. One of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Kailangan natin ma-feel yung support ng other person or ng other members in the group. Reality orientation, seeing others in similar situations. Kung tayo ay nasa developmental group, maiisip natin na ang problema natin or kung what situation may come into us right now or in the long run, ay hindi na rin nagkakalayo sa situation ng ibang tao. Kung may problema sila, may problema din ako. So that's reality orientation. Next is clearer self-appraisal, which means clearer perspective of oneself. So in the event of group goal achieving process, nagkakaroon ka ng self-appraisal na i-evaluate mo what are your strengths and weaknesses and then how would you use it for your advantage. Okay, next. Number 6 characteristic, we have the group becomes the medium for the workers' actions. Pag sinabi nating medium, a way for the perception of each other's actions and for the workers' perception of both. Okay? It's both the group and the members' interactions. Number 7, the group goal achieving process is carried out on the basis of open agreements. Mayroong open agreements kasi nga ang developmental is also democratic. All must be heard. Then lastly is the group is essentially self-directing. They know where and when should the group go through from this point or this time. Alam nila, may direction sila kung saan ang pupuntahan. The helping process includes beginning stage, middle stage, at saka ending stage. Magkakapareha, beginning, assessment, problem identification. The middle, this one is implementation, at saka yung ending involves the termination. Okay, we move now to the hindi ko na masyado i-discuss further yung mga approaches na to kasi madidiscuss to sa group work, casework, at saka CO nyo. Okay? So number 12, interactionist approach. This is developed by William Schwartz. Ang work natin dito ay nagme-mediate. We do have a mediating function here. We look into the person, situation, interaction, the person and the environment. Example nito are the mutual aid group. They come together to form a group para din itong advocate groups para i-address yung concern nila na kailangan nila ng ganitong service from an agency. So ikaw ngayon, si social worker would help mediate. Ilalapit mo sila sa ahensya or sa agency, sa departments or other institutions na kailangan ang tulong nila. So yun, the client, the social worker as a mediator with the system. The features of this is the group is a collective. It's collective. Meaning, sila nagkakaisa. They have one goal para i-advance ang kanilang gusto. Then people need each other. That's why it's mutual aid group. Kailangan kita, that's why kailangan kong magstay sa grupo nyo because I want the mandate and I want your advocacy in the group. Then you work on the common task kasi this one is also involving tasks. This and then lastly it is embedded in a relevant agency function. Okay, your work again should be within the realm of your agency function. In the interactionist approach, also, we consider that there is a symbiotic relationship. Okay, applyin natin to ng ecology. So, I need you, you need me, therefore we need each other. Okay? And now, in terms of the phases naman, we have 4. First is the tuning in or preparation for entry, where ang valued outcome nito ay to tune in to the coded messages and meanings. So, if the example, group, a mutual aid group. So gusto nila na ma-address yung issue ng sanitation ng kanilang community. So how? So pupunta, maglalabi sana sila sa barangay captain na para abisuhan yung isang private na company operating within that. Let's just say poultry. Okay, kasi napakamabaho. And then nag-i-emit siya ng mabahong or ng mga waste that is really very unpleasant to the community. So preparation for entry, ang gagawin mo as a worker, titingnan mo, magkakanda ka ng meeting sa grupo and then also sa agency. You set their minds na mag-recreate ka ng isang mediation process or ng isang process. So you tune them in. Aalamin mo ano yung problema and then what are their takes on the problem. And then after that is the beginnings where you move into the group. Sa beginnings, you started to talk. The two parties can talk. Okay? So ang heart natin sa beginnings is the contracting process. And then the valued outcome is the opening consensus. So ngayon, magkakasundo ang private company at saka yung grupo na ganito yung magiging solusyon. Gagawa tayo ng plan. We should come into a common ground. And then after that, i-implement yung plan. Doon na papasok si task, which you search for a common ground, challenging the obstacles, contributing ideas, and etc. para ma-reach or ma-address yung issue ng sanitation in the community. And then lastly is the ending and separation, where ang concern dito ay valued outcome dito ay should be serious and have substances or dapat na-reach yung goal or na-execute well yung plan. Okay, next, I guess this one is the last, the remedial approach. The remedial approach, this was developed by Robert Winter and his colleagues at the University of Michigan. So this is also called a social treatment approach. And then the group is conceived as a small social system whose influences can be guided in planned ways to modify client behavior. So kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, as much as possible, maliit lamang ang group members na ito. Like 5. 5 will do para mas intimate yung interaction kasi the more intimate, the more positive yung change na madedevelop within the group. So, pag sinabi natin the group as both means and context of treatment, anong ibig sabihin nito? Pag sinabi natin means, ang grupo ay nagiging vehicle of a treatment or a change. And then, pag sinabi naman natin context of treatment, the group is being provided an opportunity for direct client-worker interactions. Okay? Or sila yung nagiging subject of change. Both sila yung daan at saka both sila yung subject of change. So, ang treatment sequence dito ay intake. Gagawa tayo ng intake. Diagnosis and treatment planning. We know naman what intake is. We basically identify ano yung mga information at saka ano yung problema. And then diagnosis and treatment planning. Gagawa tayo ng diagnosis out of that problem, out of that identification or intake of the problem. And then, magkakaroon tayo ng planning. Then after that, the group composition, where we look into the size and characteristics of the group. And then, we form the group. After that, group development and treatment. Sa group development is generally planning for activities. What activities need to be done? That's group development. And then, treatment. I-implement natin yung activities. Then after that, we evaluate and terminate. Okay? Strategies of intervention includes 3. Okay? First is direct means of influence. Second is indirect means of influence. And then lastly is extra group means of influence. Now, sa direct means of influence, this one is the immediate interaction. The worker directly intervening with the client. Si indirect naman, hindi si worker directly intervening with the individual members or client. However, minomodify niya ang group conditions. But still, ang target of influence dito ay ang members of the group. Si extra group means of influence naman, you modify the behavior of the persons in the client's social environment. So, gagawa ka ng extra group means of influence. Mag-i-intervene ka, for example, may problema ang isang kliyente sa isang miyembro ng grupo, and then na-found out mo na kailangan to ng further assessment. So, gagawa ka ng extra group means of influence. Mag-i-intervene ka sa worker, sa client mo na particular member with his or her family ba? Or groups ba? Other groups na outside sa grupo na create mo. So, sa direct means of influence, 4 dito. Okay? So, ang first is the worker as a central person. You are the object of identification and drives. Ibig sabihin, the worker here is a major source of influence because of her position. So siya ang nagiging role model. Siya ang central person. Number 2, the worker as symbol and spokesman. She or he is the agent of legitimate norms and values. So, ibig sabihin, si worker ang may control kung papaano or kung ano ang kanyang isiset na limits and controls within the group or the norms na dapat sundin ng grupo. Pangatlo, worker as symbol worker as motivator and stimulator, where the worker is definer of individual goals and tasks. Dito, si worker ay may ability na dapat i-reward to. Dapat mag-advise ako or mag-suggest ako or encourage ko to. At para at least ma-motivate ang ating mga kliyente. Worker as executive, si worker ang controller of the members' roles. Ito, directly interacting to modify the roles and positions. Directly working with the client. If in case may problema sa kliyente, directly i-work ni worker. Okay? So, that's the first. Now, the second, the indirect means of influence where the worker, hindi siya nagda-directly working with the group or the members of the group, but dito dinadaan niya sa grupo. Okay, first is the group purpose. The worker will effect change through the purpose. Ano yung aim ng grupo? Kung ang aim ng grupo ay ito, of course, susunod na dyan, dapat ang atmosphere ng grupo ay ganito. Now, pag i-change siya ng group, ng worker, of course, mati-change din also yung group atmosphere. And all other will follow. Selection of group members. Okay, it will affect the group because the more konti as prescribed by the worker, the more mas intimate. The more mas marami, the more mas maingay. Considering this one is remedial. Then the size of the group, ayun pala, size of the group, and then selection of the group, all composes or all is referring to group composition. Then group operating and governing procedures, these are the rules or norms that are present and should be present within the group. And then group development, what activities best fits the group. So yon, may control ang worker doon. So hindi niya directly working with the client but pinapadaan niya sa conditions ng grupo. And then yung kanina, yung extra group means of influence na medyo nanda-discuss ko na. Okay. CO tayo na saan po ma'am? Ano po yun? Okay. Sige, 3 models of community organization. Okay, na-include na dito. We have locality development, social planning, at saka social action. Si locality development, the community change may be pursued optimally through broad participation of a wide spectrum of people at the local community level in goal determination and action. So, the locality development or community development, basically an empowerment approach where you let your client, may democratic approach, you let your client decide kung ano yung problema, what are the solutions, up until mag-terminate. All the client, all what you do is empower and then you let your client decide on their own. You're just there to guide the community. However, ito si social planning, kaiba siya sa locality development kasi it emphasizes a technical process of problem solving with regard to substantive social problems such as delinquency, housing, and mental health. Pag may mga issues na ganyan, hindi na yan kaya ng community. Like problema sa delinquency, hindi natin pwedeng hayaan ng community na sila yung mag-address yan. Kailangan natin ng experts. So, hihingi tayo, yun, correct po, hihingi tayo ng guidance ng mga lawyers for delinquency, housing, yung mga people in the National Housing Authority, mental health, psychiatrists, even us. Hindi natin kaya to. That's why we need experts to help us push through the social planning. Sa social action, kaiba siya kasi this one may disadvantaged segment of the population that needs to be organized perhaps in alliance with others to make adequate demands on the larger community for increased resources or treatment more in accordance with the social justice or democracy. So social action may disadvantage segment of the population and then nag-create sila ng social action. Nag-protest sila, different forms of social action. Yan, nag-advocate sila ng kanilang rights kasi they think they are being suppressed but they're just sub-sector or subgroup of a community. Okay? So, discuss natin further with the table. Okay. Ito. May practice variables. Ano yung mga or indicators and then what's in the locality development, the social planning at saka social action. Now, first, goal categories. So si locality development, focus siya. Kanino itong goals in CO? Okay? Ano yung tatlong goal? Process, task, at saka relationship goals. Right? Sinong author niyan? Sinong author ng goal categories? Ano? Goals. Arthur Dunham. Okay. Sige. Locality development, ito process. Kasi it looks into the decision-making process of the kasi nga democratic. Si social planning naman task, very specific. Ano dapat yung dapat gawin? Needed ba? That is kailangan may expert. And in the social action, both task and process goals. Looks into ano yung dapat gawin at saka looks into the process. Dapat mayroong tawag nito proper na decision making and then participation within the community. So assumptions regarding community structure and problem conditions. Si locality development overshadowed by the larger community. So it is the larger community. Ang problema ay experienced by the larger community. Ang sa social planning naman comprised of substantive social problems. Substantive, why? Because importantly, very significant. It might not be lahat sila na members of the community are experiencing it, but lahat sila are also stakeholders in the problem. Could be either primary or secondary stakeholders. Okay? And then, sa social action comprised of a hierarchy of privilege and power. Those who holds the power and those who does not hold the power. And then, yung mga walang power, ang gusto nila magkaroon ng boses. That's why, yun yung gusto nila. Basic strategy for locality development. Let's all get together and talk this over. Mapag-uusapan natin yan lahat in a democratic way. Sa social planning, let's get the facts kasi very technical and take the logical step, rational steps after. Then social action, let's get organized and destroy our oppressor kasi sila ang may power. Now, characteristic change tactics and techniques sa locality development, since this is democratic, kailangan ng consensus. Kung may kailangang i-resolve na problem in the community, consensus dapat yan. Okay? Now, sa social planning naman, iba kasi kailangan ng fact-finding at saka analytical skills before deciding kung ano dapat yung gagawin na step. And then si social action is conflict tactics. Kailangang malaman ano yung problema, sino yung may hold ng power, at saka sino yung walang power. And then doon, magtitake ang iyong intervention process or technique. Then practitioner roles and medium of change. So sa locality development, ang role mo dito ay enabler ka as a worker and encourager. Pagdating sa social planning, you are a technical and expert. Okay? But it doesn't mean na alam mo lahat. Okay, pwedeng hindi mo alam, that's why nagtatap ka ng other professionals to help you out with the problem of the community. Now, si advocate and activist ka naman dito pagdating sa social action where you probably take on a partisan interest for or bias ka with your clients. In terms of orientation of power structure, sino ang may power? Sa locality development, lahat ng tao ay may power kasi this is democratic. Pagdating sa social planning, sino yung may sponsor? For example, ang problema dito ay housing. Sino yung nag-sponsor ng housing? Siya yung may power or employer of the practitioner. And in si social action, outside target of action. Kung ito yung subsector or subgroup, ang may power ay yung mga elite who holds the power, yung mga nagde-deprive, nag-o-oppress sa kanila. Right. Next tayo, in terms of boundary definition of community client systems or constituency, pag locality development, lahat ng community. Pag social planning, it's either total or some part of the community. Again, kaya ganyan sabi ko kanina, kasi pwedeng primary or secondary ka na stakeholder or may take ka or directly affected or indirectly affected ka of the issue like housing. Kung may bahay ka, hindi mo naman isusiguro ang housing. But yung mga neighborhood mo, may problema sila with the housing. So still, pwede siyang maging pasukan ng social planning. Social action, some community subpart which suffers. Now, in terms of assumptions regarding community interest of community subparts, pagdating sa locality development, pag mayroong subparts inside the community, reconcilable lang yan, mapag-uusapan yan. Now, pag sa social planning pragmatic, kailangan we need to get the facts. Kasi pragmatic. We need to be logical. Okay? We don't need to be reconcilable or mag-abide ka lang or mag-conform ka lang. No, we need to get the facts first. Okay? And then, pagdating sa social action, non-reconcilable. That's why kailangan naming mag-aklas. Tama ba ako? Aklas is the term. Mag-protest. Okay? Kasi it's not
Social movement.
It's not reconcilable. Now, in terms of the conception of the public interest, ano ang pagkakaiba ni rationalist Ni idealist at saka ni realist. Pag sinabi nating rationalist, this means focusing on the common good through deliberate process. So, kailangan may prosesong pina-follow. Si idealist naman, public interest through exercise of judgment and conscience. Kailangang expert talaga or may conscience or may proper tactics na ifa-follow. Si realist naman, community is made up of conflicting public or interest groups na they are clashing together. Okay? And then, anong pagkakaiba ni unitary at saka ni individualist? Okay? Si unitary, meaning wider in scope, lahat, community-based. Si unitary, lesser interacting interest or only a subgroup is experiencing that. Okay? So, si locality development, rationally siya at saka unitary because it needs a deliberate process. Okay? And then unitary kasi lahat ng community ay involved. Now, si social planning naman ay idealist unitary. Why? Because kailangan ng proper judgment kung ano yung solution na dapat i-resolve. And then lahat din also, wider community can be, maging source of the public interest. And then lastly, si social action, it's realist because may suppress na subgroup of the community, and then individualist kasi sila lamang ang nakaka-experience ng ganun. Okay? Now, number 10, the conception of the client population or constituency, pag locality development, just the normal citizens. Pag social planning, tinitingnan natin na consumer sila of services. So, wala masyadong interaction ang ang community dito sa social planning kasi very technical ang kanilang concern or problema. Then si social action, they are the victim of the system. The system here, the general system which is held by those who have power. Okay? Next, conception of the client or constituent role. So dito sa locality development, napaka-active ng mga community. Active sila. Kasi nga, right from the identification of the problem up until ma-terminate, ang kanilang community helping process, active talaga sila. Sa social planning, since they are consumers, they are also recipient lamang. Receive lamang ng service na facilitated by the worker. Now, sa social action, they are the constituents, okay, or the employers. Constituents versus the employers. Ang may power dito ay ang employers at saka si constituents yung na-oppressed of the power. Okay? Okay. Move tayo with the indirect models of intervention. So, number 17, working with the elite. Okay, we discussed yesterday kung ano yung mga elite. They have the power, the resources. That's why we need to tap them. The principles of working with the elite. Okay, number 1, need and resource determination and matching. Kung ano yung pangangailangan ng community, hahanap ka ng pwedeng maging elite or pwedeng maging source. So yun, ima-match mo yun. And then clarity of purpose and objective. Ano yung purpose and objective talaga ng community organizing mo? And then you involve. Kanina, direct yon model of intervention. Kasi nga, directly working with the clients. Pero ngayon, this one is indirect. Hindi na directly working with the client, but helping the clients as well. So, next is the involvement in the program or project planning and implementation. So, yon dapat they are also one of the primary stakeholders, itong mga elites, so that kailangan mo talaga silang i-involve sa planning at saka sa implementation kasi might as well pera nila to or they are the sponsors or sila yung may-ari ng lupa if in case magpapatayo ka ng isang building for the community or whatsoever. Then unitary accountability. Okay? Unitary accountability, lahat accountable. Dapat i-spell out mo talaga yan. The elite also has accountability, and then the community as well. So, kailangan mong i-spell out lahat yan in working with the elites para, ang nangyayari kasi, it's just like making a proposal. When you do make a proposal, What's the purpose of making a proposal? Sige daw. Bakit tayo gumagawa ng proposal? In your subject, in your project development and management, why do we need to make project proposal? What's the main purpose? Bakit tayo gumagawa ng project proposal? To seek for, ano?
Funds or money.
Fund. Correct.
Fund,
Budget.
money. Yes, sir. Budget.
Kailangan natin ng budget. So, saan tayo magsisend? Okay? Usually, we make project proposals, isisend natin sa mga elites. Sa mga may posibleng may mga nakakaangat-angat sa buhay. Okay? Para tulungan i-fund ang ating tawag
Project proposal.
However, ang mga elite, tinitingnan nila na hindi pwedeng mag-invest kami or magbibigay kami ng walang kapalit or walang conditions. Dapat alam namin saan papunta to, ano yung pupuntahan niya, will this be good or not. So yun, kailangan mo yun as a worker to explain sa elite na ito yung pupuntahan ng pera nyo. Okay? So yun yun. The number 18, documentation or social criticism. So i-document mo ano yung mga best practices tsaka worst practices or implementation of a program. And then lastly is advocacy. You advocate for the rights of your clients. Okay? Okay. Dito tayo sa last topic for this night. The generic tools in social work practice. Should we take a break? Okay. We'll take a 10-minute break, okay?
Sure.
Okay, sir.
Unsa ka na po at ka siya. Let's go.
Okay, so yeah, we'll continue. Now we move on to the generic tools in social work practice. So, dapat alam natin at this point ano yung magkakaiba ng tactics, tools, strategy, techniques, okay? Sa book ng community organizing ni Miklat, naka-spell out doon ano yung pagkakaiba nun, but hindi ko talaga siya ma-memorize. All I think is, I understood what it meant, but not bookish, okay? Sige, move tayo sa generic tools. There are various tools that is being used in the social work practice stipulated or stated in the Orange Book. Ito, this has been my presentation before, which in-include ko na lang dito for additional information. So, first na tool is ang communication, okay? So, my presentation ako, nag-speak ako before na ang topic ko ay fundamental skills in writing and communication in social work. So, in-insert ko na lang to, okay? Sige. The topic outline for this topic, communication and interviewing, two of the tools present in the social work practice. We have first, we will be discussing what communication is, what is listening, what is active listening, what is empathic listening, the Soler technique, in terms of interviewing with your clients, the interviewing, documentation and recording, writing skills, and also itong blended workshop because I tried to make a workshop before sa aking training. Hindi ko lang siya na-edit. Okay? What is then a communication? Communication comes from a Latin word communis, which means to make common. For a while, Okay. Sige. Latin, it comes from a Latin word communis, which means to make common and share and the word communare. Okay, a communicare, which means to share or to impart. So to make common and to share or impart. So meaning basically sending a message. Okay? It is a two-way process. Bakit siya sinabing two-way? Because the sender sending the message, while the receiver also decoding the message and sending back the feedback to the sender. So both the sender and the receiver interacts with each other. That's why it is a two-way process. Hindi lang siya about sender to receiver, but also receiver to sender. Okay? And a method, kasi may method, may process siyang fina-follow by which a source previously shares messages with a receiver directly or via a channel, and both learn from each other. Okay. Elements of communication, we have first sender. Si sender, siya yung nag-e-encode ng message. Okay? Siya yung nag-e-encode ng message. And then, next is ang message. Okay? Ang context or ang content ng message or ng ano yung what do you wish to send to sa receiver. Okay? And then, papaano siya sinisend sa receiver? It's through a channel. And then, depende yan ngayon sa pag-decode ng receiver kung na-understand niya or hindi yung message through a channel because of the noise or disturbances. So, si receiver ngayon ang magde-decode ng message. And then, si receiver ngayon, magbibigay ng feedback to the sender. Okay? Sige. Next. Okay. We have the elements of communication. So, first is the source or the sender or the originator. So, pag source ka or sender ka, you must be credible. Okay? And then you also look into the various factors in considering your audience. Okay? Pag ang audience mo ay bata, mag-adjust ka. Hindi ka pwedeng maging strict. Pag ang audience mo ay adult, okay, use an adult learning na approach. Okay? KSA. Ang message ay can be KSA. Ano ibig sabihin ng KSA? Knowledge, skills, and attitude. Yun yung content ng, dyan lang nagre-revolve ang type of message sa tatlo. The knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Okay? So ang message could be verbal through the use of words, non-verbal without the use of words, and or symbols. Okay? Symbols are also non-verbal form of communication which can stand by themselves or with words such as posters or logos. Anong ko? A letter, communication letter, is it verbal, non-verbal, or symbol? Communication letter, a letter, binigay sa'yo, is it a verbal, non-verbal, or symbol? Sige daw. It is, ano?
Non-verbal.
Bakit non-verbal, Ranver?
Of course, sir, non-verbal siya. Kay tungod, kay it compose answer, a paragraph, sentence, so na message. Kay kung symbol lang, sir, is kuan siya, sige siya, kuan lang symbol kaning naka-abstract.
Hindi pa siya pwede makonsider natin as verbal. Correct. It is verbal. Bakit? Ang key term natin, pag verbal, it always uses words.
Okay, sir.
Okay? Pag si non-verbal, walang ginagamit na words. Sa symbol, on the other hand, ang kanya ay like posters or logos na even without words or not, it can stand on its own. And then, alam natin na may message in there through that symbols. Okay? So, yon. Ha? Klaro yun ha? Communication is a form of verbal kasi may use of words. Okay? Ang KSA po ay knowledge, skills, and attitude. Channel. Tama bang spelling ng channel ko dito or double N?
Double N po, sir.
Mali na naman. This is a brand. So that's okay. Eratom. This should be double N. Parang na-confuse din ako. Social. Yeah. Social yung Chanel. Chanel. Okay. Interpersonal communication. The channel could be interpersonal communication. Wait lang nga. I-correct ko. For a while, i-correct ko. Baka hindi ko na ito makorect soon. Na-correct ko na kahapon yung 15. Mahilig siguro sa Chanel na bag. Hindi ko afford yung Chanel. Ang afford ko lang ho, mga Herschel, Uniqlo, yan lang po yung kaya ng bulsa ko. Memo, yan lang po. Hindi ko ho cup of tea ang Chanel. Kasi hindi ko ganyan kalaki yung aking sweldo or sahod. Kasi nga, social worker, walang social worker na mayaman. Almost all of the social workers are mahihirap. Because, why? Kumukuha tayo ng pera sa bulsa natin if in case ang kliyente natin ay walang pera. So, we left with nothing most of the time. Okay? Yan. I experienced talaga that. Like, ako bumibigay ng pamasahe yun. Naka-experience ako niyan dito sa office. Okay? Sige. The channel could be interpersonal communication or mass media. Pag sinabi nating interpersonal communication, that is through face-to-face. Okay? Communication. May interaction between the sender talaga at saka receiver. O yeah, channel is the medium. Correct po. So, si mass media naman, either printed or electronics. Si mass media, pwedeng si printed such as leaflets. Okay? Or si electronics such as through radio or TV. Okay? So, may tanong ako, what if video call? Ano yan? Video call.
Mass media, sir, kay electronics through electronics.
Sabi dito, electronics daw. Sa interpersonal kasi may interaction ng sender at saka receiver. Sige daw. It is, ano? It can be both. Okay? Interpersonal kasi may direct interaction ng, yun nga, tama nga yun, channel nga. Pero I mean, ano ba siya? Interpersonal or mass media? Yeah, pwedeng both. May interaction of the sender to the receiver. At the same time, ang kanilang media ay electronics. Okay? So ngayon, si receiver. Si receiver is the intended audience. Siya yung subject ng ating message if we are the source. So, titingnan natin that our receiver should be homogeneous. The needs should be known and then dapat, if in case, titingnan natin kung anong sector. Okay? Yon. Anong sector? Example, women ba, PWD or senior citizen. So, i-align natin doon kung ano yung type or technique natin in terms of sending the message. And then, we look also into the educational attainment. Kasi baka mag-topic ka doon ng social functioning. Eh, ang mga kliyente mo ay nasa grade 1, grade 2. How will they understand your message? Right? And then younger is open to learning as compared to the adult. Yung mga adult medyo hindi na masyado sila nagtitake on ng information as compared to the younger. Pag younger, napaka ano pa kasi parang tawag nito.
Wala pang experience, sir. Wala
pang experience or yung uhaw pa sa knowledge. Okay? May term dyan eh. May term. Napaka-curious pa nila kung paano ang bagay-bagay. That's why you feed on knowledge. Okay, next is listening. So what is listening? Listening is the process of receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding to spoken and or non-verbal messages. To hear something with thoughtful attention. So listening means you are, basically listening to what your client is saying or to what your sender is saying. And then not just plainly listening, you look into the non-verbal messages also, the facial expressions, the gestures. Okay? You assign meanings. Okay? Sige. There are types of listening. We have the inactive listening, selective listening, active listening, at saka reflective. Wait lang ha, my battery is getting low. Off na naman to. Yun. Okay. Sige. Inactive listening meaning not listening attentively. But still you're listening pero hindi ka nagli-listen well. So that's inactive listening. Or pwedeng physically present but mentally absent. O yan. Inactive listening. Selective listening, ang nililisten mo lang ay selective based on your interest, on kung ano lang yung gusto mong i-listen from the sender, yun lang yung ipipick up mo, pinipili mo lang. Si active listening naman, this one is positive, okay? Like, you're lending both your ears, your eyes, and then you assign meanings, or nagpro-provide ka ng context clues, or context to what your client is really saying. So that's active listening. Then si reflective listening naman, your client will tell you this and then you try to reflect. Okay, ano ba yung, what have you learned from that experience? So dyan na natitest yung workers' ability to provide probing and clarifying questions. Okay, reflective listening, what have you learned or insights from the sender? Okay, next. Active listening, ito related kanina sa listening. This one is
parang another term lang siya, pero pare-pareha lang talaga yan sila. Active listening, a way of listening and responding to another person that improves mutual understanding. It is a way of paying attention to the other people that can make them feel that they are here, that you are hearing them, and that this type of listening is called active because it requires certain behaviors of the listener. So basically, you're listening, lending your ears and eyes, and then understanding the meaning behind the verbal and non-verbal messages of your sender. That's being an active listener. The concepts in active listening we have, guys, mag-CR break muna ka, give me 3 minutes. Okay, sige. So, key concepts in active listening. First is display involvement in what the person is saying. Dapat ipaalam mo or ipa-feel mo sa kliyente mo or sa one that is your sender, if in case it's your client, na nakikinig ka, na you are really involved. Okay? Carefully observe the person speaking. What we mean by carefully observe, look into also the non-verbal clues. Resist distractions. So that's why kailangan, if for example, ito kasing active listening na nagagamit siya in terms of interviewing or communicating with your client. So sa interviewing talaga siya nagagamit. Look for a place na very suitable for an interview or for a communication, na walang mga outside distractions na pwedeng makahinder para mag-grasp mo kung ano talaga yung sinabi ng kliyente mo. Then try to stay focused on what is being said. And then ask for clarification of anything that you do not fully understand. Do not think or do not feel na, okay, know it all, alam ko na, sa isang word pa lang, alam ko na yung the rest. No, okay? Let your client tell kung ano yung gusto niyang sabihin. Okay? And then, yun, dun ka pa mag-create ng assessment mo from the, or yung knowledge mo from the information of your client. Then delay making judgment about what is said. Okay? Patapusin mo muna yung kliyente mo. Ito, ina-apply ko to in terms of communicating with your client. Okay, barriers to active listening. Paano na i-skewed or nagkakaroon ng mali or paano flunk or nagfi-fail ang isang communication. First, it is through internal at saka external barriers. Pag internal barriers, it could be within the listener, the person listening, or within the speaker. See, within the listener, comparing personal experiences, hindi siguro ito magaling or ganyan, automatic talking, magsasalita pa lang. Yeah, it can be in counseling, correct po. Automatic talking, nagsasalita pa lang si client, si worker,
interrupting na talaga si client. At yan talaga, maraming types of client, personalities. Naku po, matitest talaga kayo dyan in the field. Yung tipong, actually yung pinaka-hate ko, yung mga, no, not really hate, but I mean, yung hindi ko gusto sa mga kliyente talaga usually na na-handle ko or na na-encounter ko, yung ini-insist nila na sila yung tama. Even though you explain to them well na ito sir, ito kasi yung programa, may limitations kami, may budgetary restrictions, kailangan namin ng quota, and then ito dapat yung gagawin mo, ganyan-ganyan. And then sasabihin nila, hindi, kasi you're not pro-poor. You're anti-poor. Ganon kayo mga gobyerno eh. Ganon. Naku, umiinit yung ulo ko dyan. Naku. Yung, kahit na i-explain mo na lahat, hindi pa rin niya maintindihan. Diyos ko Lord. Yon. Kasi ang problema, probably nasa kanya. Hindi niya ma-accept kung ano yung sinasabi. Automatic talking. Mind reading, judging, daydreaming. Nagsasalita ka pero siya hindi talaga physically present. Then perceptual errors or mali yung pagkaintindi niya sa sinabi mo. And then within the speaker or sa case na to tayo, baka mataas lang yung expectations natin na, sir, ito dapat yung gawin mo ha, ganyan. Kanina, may pumunta dito kasi may payout tomorrow. Medyo mabibisi ako bukas. May meeting ako at saka may payout ako tomorrow. So, magpapacilitate ako ng payout. May isang pumunta kanina dito na may schedule siya na payout tomorrow. Sabi ko, ito yung requirement, sir. Dapat magdala ka ng barangay certification at saka valid ID. Yung barangay certification mo, dapat nakalagay ang purpose for any legal purpose it may serve or for DSWD AX. Doon kami paulit-ulit niyang sinabi, sir, ano nga yun? DSWD, ano nga yun, sir? Apex? Alex? Nako, doon, medyo nawala ako, sir, AX. In-spell out ko na sa kanya. AX, sir. AICS. Yun, mali ko din kasi I expected na magigets talaga niya kasi sabi ko, assistance in crisis situation. Yun, sir. So, hindi pala niya nag-grasp. So, medyo mataas lang yung expectation ko. So, yun, nagkakaroon ng internal barriers. Kasi kung hindi niya nag-gets talaga kung ano yung dapat ilagay doon sa barangay certification, probably, hindi siya nakakakuha ng ayuda bukas kasi mali yung certification niya. So, that's the key. That's the yan yung pinaka-isang crucial na dapat ipaintindi natin sa client kung ano talaga yung ibig sabihin natin. Then, avoidance of the topic, and then speaking in code. Kanina, in code, AX. Sana sinabi ko na lang talaga, assistance in crisis situation. Mga ganon. Sir, pumunta ka sa DSWD. Ano yung DSWD? Oh, sir, pumunta ka sa, Sir, pumunta ka sa FCCDI. Ano yung FCCDI? Mga codes. So, yon, huwag gumamit niyan. Especially, you look into the characteristic of your audience and then boundaries. You look into the boundaries. Wag masyadong sumobra. Go within your limits naman. And then aside from the internal variables, we also have external variables like the noises around, the clutters, and other interruptions in the environment. Okay? Na pwedeng, like for example, you're talking or nag-counseling kayo or nag-i-interview kayo and then nasa gilid kayo ng daan. Diba? Hindi kayo nagkakarinigan, right? So yun, mahirap doon. That's an external barrier. So you have to look into that. So steps in active listening, first is you listen and then magtanong ka after. And then pag na-clarify na yung tanong mo, i-reflect and i-paraphrase mo kung tama ba yung narinig mo and then you agree kung tama ba or hindi or kung ano yung punto ng kliyente mo. So, first, active listening skill, we have reflecting. Paano mag-reflect? Ang purpose ng reflect is to show that you understand how the person feels. Paano? Reflects on the speaker's basic feelings. Paano? Example, you seem very upset today. Okay? What made you upset? So yun, you're reflecting. The term you are very upset, meaning nafe-feel mo or you try to understand kung ano yung nafe-feel ng kliyente mo ngayon. Which is upset. Next is encouraging. Ang purpose nito is to convey interest or to encourage the other person to keep talking. Encouraging ka lang. Sige. Magsalita ka pa na magsalita. Okay? Your action mo, don't disagree or agree. Use neutral words at saka use varying voice intonations. Pataas, pababa. Depende na yan sa kliyente and sa case. Example, can you tell me more? You told me kanina na nakatira kayo sa isang squatter area. Can you tell me more of your situation there? Kumusta ba ang food nyo? Kumusta ba ang security? So, ganon. That's encouraging. You tell your client na to talk pa, more pa. Next, summarizing. The purpose of this is to review the progress, to pull together important ideas and facts, to establish a basis for further discussion. So, summarizing from the many topics or many information na sinare ng client mo, ilalump mo into compact statement. Okay? Restate major ideas expressed, including the feelings. Example, these seem to be the key ideas you've expressed. Number 1, ganyan-ganyan. Number 2, ganyan-ganyan. So, you're doing summarizing. Kaiba siya sa paraphrasing kasi sa paraphrasing hindi siya nagsasummarize. Kundi, nire-restate niya ano yung ibig sabihin mo. Okay? Clarifying. Sa clarifying, the purpose is to help you clarify what is said, to get more information, to help the speaker see other points of view. Example, ano ba yung nature of work mo, sir? Okay, napaka-vague. Okay? So, ako ay isang basurero. Yon, sabi niya. So, you would think, what are the clarificatory questions na pwede kong i-apply pa dito? Okay, if you are a basurero, then therefore, magkano yung in-earn mo? Ano pa ba? What time ka? What time ka nagbabasura? Sapat ba ang pagbabasura para mabigay mo yung pangangailangan ng pamilya mo? Is it safe doon? Malaki ba ang rest? Yon, madubi ba masyado, mabaho ba? So those are clarificatory questions na might as well would help you na ma-understand more your situation. Or follow-up questions. Follow-up questions are also clarifying questions. Clarifying or clarificatory questions. Ask questions, restate wrong interpretation to force the speaker to explain further. Explaining further. Example, when did this happen? Did I have this right? Do I have this right? You think he told you to give him the pencil because he doesn't like you? Yun. You're clarifying. Restating or paraphrasing, the purpose of this is to show you are listening and understanding what is being said. Pero huwag naman sana natin iulit-ulitin pa. Once is enough, okay? To help the speaker see the other points of view, and then action could be restate the basic ideas and facts. Example nito, so you'd like your friends to include you at recess. Is that right? Okay. Probably sinabi ng kliyente na yung mga friends ko hindi nila ako sinasama sa kanilang mga hindi nila ako sinasama magkumain, mag-recess, yun, mag-lunch break. So yun, pwede mong i-clarify or i-restate through that. Next, validating. Si validating, acknowledge the worthiness of other person. Acknowledge the value of their issues and feelings. Show appreciation of their efforts and actions. So meaning you validate. Remember, all the feelings of their client must be validated. Okay? Huwag mong i-invalidate yung feeling ng kliyente mo. Sir, mali yan. Sir, hindi yan tama. Huwag kang magganyan. No. Let it flow para sa kliyente mo and then you're just there to validate na okay, it's natural. Nangyayari talaga yan. However, lead him to the right direction. If possible, provide an advice. Example, I truly appreciate your willingness to resolve this matter. So meaning you're giving them or the client value or worth. Okay, what is empathic listening then? Okay, na-discuss ko kahapon, ano yung pagkakaiba ng empathy sa sympathy. Pag empathic listening, reflection of content and feeling at a deeper level, its purpose is to try and get understanding of what may be the deeper feelings. So it's like putting yourself in the shoes of others, and in that way, you get to have a deeper understanding kung ano ang feel ng kliyente mo, or kung ano ang ibig sabihin ng kliyente mo, or kung ano yung emotions ng kliyente mo at the present. So that is being an empathic listener. Okay, Soler. Okay, in conducting an interview, kailangan to, or communication. First is sit attentively at an angle. S for sit attentively at an angle. It is important to sit attentively at an angle to the person who uses the service. This means that you can look at the person directly or shows that you are listening to the person seated beside you and that you are conveying interest. So sit attentively at an angle. Possibly walang table. Kasi yung table, it would create power. The more nakaharap si kliyente doon sa table and then si worker facing the kliyente, the more si kliyente intimidated. So if possible, dapat mag-create ka ng equal. Equal siya na, tawag nito, equal siya na na arrangement. Okay? So sit attentively at an angle. O is for open posture. Open posture. It is important for practitioner to have an open posture. Wag number 4, wag ganyan. So because again, it would convey na you have the power. This means not sitting or standing with your arms folded. Bawal yung arms folded. Okay? Or across your chest, as this can sometimes signal that you're defensive or that you're anxious. Kasi pag fold, nanginginig ka, or pwede mong suntukin yung kliyente mo, it's an indication. Baka matakot yung kliyente mo. Just have an open arms, open posture, and then breathe. Okay? If a practitioner has an open posture, the person may be more inclined to elaborate on their concerns. Kasi how you act towards your client depends on how your clients will also act upon you or respond to you. L is for lean forward. Huwag masyado yung medyo tutok talaga na ganyan. Okay? Just a close distance with your client. Kasi it is important that practitioners lean forward towards the person using the service. This shows that you are interested in what the person is talking. Kasi the more you lean forward, the more mafe-feel ng kliyente mo na, okay, interesado tong worker sa akin. It is also possible that the person may be talking about personal issues and so may speak in lower or quieter tone of voice. Yun nga, yung sinasabi ko na amor proprio or hiya na baka takot malaman, especially if you are in an open space nag-i-interview and napaka-confidential na ang sinabi ng kliyente mo. So, medyo mahina yung kanyang tono ng boses. So, dapat kang mag-lean forward para at least madinig mo clearly kung ano yung sinasabi ng kliyente mo. In addition, you may want to convey a message in a lower and quieter tone of voice if you are seated in a public environment. Kasi baka marinig ng iba. I is for eye contact. Eye contact. Eye contact, it is important as this demonstrates that practitioners are interested and focused on the message that the person using the service is conveying. You can also develop a sense of person's emotional state by making eye contact, therefore enabling you to judge the extent to which the person may be experiencing difficulty. So the more you do eye contact, the more engaged masyado yung kliyente mo sa'yo, and then the more your client will think that you are really listening to the client. Interested ka sa kanya. Okay? So keep an eye contact. Last is ang relaxed body language. It is important to have a relaxed body language as this conveys to the person using the service that you are not in a rush. This will enable the person to develop their responses to questions in their own time. Relax ka lang. Keep the things flow slowly and smoothly. Okay? Okay, what is then? Pangalawa, I guess this one is the second tool in social work. Interviewing. An interview, it is a face-to-face meeting between two or more persons directly towards a purpose, such as to obtain information, to give instructions, and to help. So, kaiba siya sa conversation. Bakit? Anong pagkakaiba ng interviewing sa conversation? Sige daw. Ano pagkakaiba ng interviewing sa conversation?
Sir, try.
Yeah, go ma'am.
Sa interviewing po is may bawat process po ng tanong, batuhan po. tanong mo, sagot, or mga follow-up question. Then the conversation is yung tuloy-tuloy pong usapan.
Okay. Good, good. What else? What else? Yun, nakita ko na. Nakita ko na. Si interviewing may purpose. May rason kung bakit, may direction kung bakit kayo nagkakandak ng interview. Si conversation, wala. Walang, ang topics could be anything. Just conversing, discussing, pwedeng nagmamarites lang kayo, pero sa interviewing may purpose. It's either to obtain information, to give instructions, or to help. So yan yung pagkakaiba ng interviewing sa plainly conversation, ha? And then a face-to-face meeting between 2 or more persons. Okay, it involves verbal and non-verbal communication. Tama naman yun. And then it is both an art and a technique, because an art, it involves skill, and a technique in conducting an interviewing. Objectives of the interview, ito yung sinabi ko kanina, kasi si interview may objectives as compared to the conversation. Conversation is just out of the blue, talking about random topics. So dito sa interview, to obtain information, to help the individual arrive at the right solution of the problem, to give help to individual on his immediate needs, to know the goal for a particular interview. So sa interview, gamit na gamit ko right from the moment na pumasok si kliyente sa opisina nyo asking for a service. So mag-i-intake ka. The moment na mag-intake ka, nagsimula ka ng mag-conduct ng interview. Up until nag-termination ka, interview pa rin yon. Nagka-counseling ka, still an interview. Okay? Nag-chat-chat ka sa kliyente mo, an interview. O kaya, basta provided na may purpose kung bakit ka nagkakandak ng interview. Okay? Okay, next. General purposes of interview, it could be informational, diagnostic, or therapeutic according kay Kadoshin in 1983. Informational, to make a case study. Informational meaning, you conduct an interview para mag-gather ka ng information about your client, para makagawa ka ng case study. Pangalawa, diagnostic, to make an appraisal. Magdadiagnose ka ng kliyente mo out of that interview. And then pangatlo is therapeutic, intervention. You effect change to your client through an interview. For example, nito is counseling. Okay? Sige. Next, skills for an effective interview. First is, for a while Lapit na ba tayo? Medyo malapit na tayo. Ang slides na lang to. Malayo-layo pa pala. Okay, so first, skill for an effective interview is skill in relating with the interviewee. So, may involvement ng dapat hindi mawala ang social work principles. Dapat nakabank yan doon on how we relate with the interviewee. Skill in observing the interviewee, the appearance, the gestures, or the expressions, the non-verbal messages or clues of the client. Dapat alam mo yan. Alam mo paano yan i-catch. The skill in listening. According dito, a good interviewer daw is a good listener. Brief and relevant comments na provide siya at saka encourages the client to express his feelings. That is when you are a good listener. Then, skill in asking questions, especially leading questions. Tinanong ka ng kliyente mo, may jowa ka na, trip kita. Anong isasagot mo? Okay, sir, gagawa ka, usually, isa-sandwich mo yan para hindi magalit yung kliyente mo. Do you know what sandwich is? Sisimula mo ng positive, negative, and then positive. Sir, I appreciate na tinanong mo yun sa akin. However, I am married now. And then, sir, however, but then I look forward na ang ating relationship na ito ay maging professional at saka makatulong talaga ako sa iyo. So, nag-sandwich ka. And then, i-lead mo na naman siya, i-redirect mo siya sa tamaang direction kasi medyo naano ka na ng kliyente mo. Okay? Sige, skill in answering personal question. Yun na nga yung kanina. Privacy of the worker. Sometimes we need to do white lies. Okay? Pwede tayong mag-white lies para lang ma-solve ang
ang kliyente natin. Or ano siya, ma-solve siya sa kung ano yung gusto niyang marinig. Okay? Interpreting the client's response. So you give meaning and then you understand kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng kliyente mo. And of course, dapat also may touch of self-awareness na dapat hindi siya nagka-clash sa kung ano yung values mo. Alright. Okay. Next, in conducting an interview, papaano daw? So prepare for the interview. Okay? Then, sa preparing for the interview, you look into the administrative logistic side. You prepare yourself for the interview. Then, next is always start by making the client feel comfortable. How? Pwedeng mong simulan ng small talk. Then, next is use your intuition or sixth sense. Intuition mo, your observation and then your understanding mo, ano yung mga clues na sinasabi ng kliyente mo. So, use your sixth sense. Then number 4 is exercise care in the use of interview instruments or questions or intake sheet, if in case it is an intake sheet. Like, intake at saka survey forms. Be conscious of time. Wag mong i-take up yung time more ng kliyente mo, and as much as also do not take up your time so much to the one client only. Kasi remember, marami ka pang kliyenteng isi-serve or marami ka pang reports na gagawin. Then do not rush into direct action or help without fully understanding the client situation. Wag pa dalos-dalos. Then the interviewer should have proper deportment. Dapat you have to bring yourself with proper decorum. Dapat alam mo kung ano yung gagawin in conducting an interview. Avoid yung mga terms na derogatory or lame words. Yun. Okay. Verbal techniques in conducting an interview. Okay na, discuss ko na kanina, medyo ang eye contact will do. Body posture, ito medyo related to sa Soler kanina. Body posture, you look into what is. It is a good idea to monitor one's body posture to determine what is being communicated or the non-verbal. Personal distance, generally the closer one stands to another person, the more one expresses intimacy. Very intimate, the more nag-lean forward ka, the more intimate daw ang interaction mo with your client. Vocalization, okay. Pacing questions slowly gives an impression of patience and concerns. The volume, the speed, and the pacing of your speech or your talk to your client. Wag tumaas yung boses, malumanay if possible, and then huwag masyadong so fast, and then look at the pacing. Clarification, na-discuss ko na kanina on how to do clarificatory questions. So, magkakapareha lang din yan. Summarization, when you summarize, na-discuss ko na din yan kanina, di ko na siguro i-discuss ngayon. Allowing silence. So allowing silence in between discussions is a way of showing that one is listening. It doesn't mean that it's dead air, wala na siya. No, okay? May meaning pa rin yan. Let your client understand, let your client na i-process kung ano yung question. Let your client prepare kung ano yung isasagot sa'yo. So yun. Clients are often confused and need time to collect their thoughts. Okay, again, huwag mag-assume na ang kliyente ay outright makakapag-provide ng information, ang kliyente ay matalino. Okay? So, yon. Next, association of ideas. Other points to consider in conducting an interview is association of ideas. Read into the client's problem, the feelings that he has or may not have, and then furthermore, if the interviewer listens to the client's own free association, he or she will gain very many helpful clues about the things that the client is discussing. So look into nag-discuss si kliyente about the family, about the friends, about his life, jowa, everything. And then look into kung ano yung pagkakakonect ng mga ideas ng kliyente mo. Sorry. Okay, next is shift in conversations. A client's shift in conversation may be an indication that he or she becomes conscious. He or she had been telling too much or desires not to reveal oneself or further. So, pwedeng
Pwedeng i-divert ng kliyente ang discussion kasi ayaw niyang i-discuss yung topic na yon, or pwedeng wala siyang sabihin or hindi siya mag-reveal ng tawag nito ng topic about the issue. Kasi nga gusto niyang i-shift yung conversation. So dapat alam mo yan, dapat quick ka to take on it. Opening and closing sentences, the first words a client says are often of great importance. Closing remarks are also noteworthy. Often a client's last remark indicates he or she is summing up what the interview has meant to him or her. So ano yung opening, yung pambungad at saka yung closing sentences ng kliyente mo. So dapat kung first ang kliyente mo ay very tiger masyado, hindi mo ma-interview, so papaano mo i-shift yung gears mo, and then later on pagka-closing statement pala malumanay na siya, a good indication na magaling kang interviewer. Okay, 4 is recurring references. Observe when a client repeatedly mentions a certain subject. Okay, my question for a while, have to look at it. Ano yung may naglalag talaga pag May I ask, do we allowed to break the silence during the interview, or we wait the client until he or she is ready to talk again? Okay. Timplahin mo, if in case matagal na masyado since the client has not been talking after your question, you break mo yung silence. Pero kung ang tanong mo naman ay mabigat, and then it needs for your clients to think thoroughly kung ano yung i-respond sa'yo, then hayaan mo siya. Give him some time. Pwede mong i-break yung silence. Basta tingnan mo kung tama na ba. Pacing is also crucial. Is it right na para i-break ko na ba to? Baka kanina pa kasi siya nag-iisip. Or baka, may timing. Okay? Sige, recurring references either in general terms or in specific such as job, need for money, difficulties with spouse, and etc. So kung paulit-ulit yan na dinediscuss ng kliyente mo, ibig sabihin may problema siya dyan. Sabi niya, may problema ako sa asawa ko, ganun. Even though your topic is different na, pero ini-insert pa rin niya yung asawa niya. So that's recurring references, meaning talagang pwedeng mag-focus ka dyan as social worker. Next, inconsistencies and gaps. Note when the client's story is not unified, such as when he or she often contradicts himself or herself on the real meaning of what is being said is not clear. Such behavior may indicate the operation of internal pressure, confusion, or ambivalence. So dito sa inconsistency and gaps, pinaka-concrete na example dito ay iba yung sinasabi ng kliyente sa kung ano yung kanyang facial expression. Or, iba yung feel niya sa sinasabi niya. Crying na pala siya, pero deep inside, happy pala siya sa labas. Sabi niya, I'm fine, ma'am, I'm fine. Pero deep inside, parang mamamatay na pala siya. So there are inconsistency and gaps on how your client is behaving and acting. So dapat alam mo yon. Quick to note ka dyan. Concealed meaning. It is essential for the interviewer to be accustomed to listening to what the client could really mean behind what he or she is actually saying. So kanina, medyo related kanina, itanong mo sa kliyente mo kung ano talaga yung ibig sabihin niya sa puntong sa statement na yon. And then might as well, meron siyang kinukonceal na something that you need to ask. Or might pinatago. Okay? Essential conditions in conducting interview. So look at the physical setting. Is it conducive for an interview or not? And then recording, ito. May tanong ako, in case ayaw ng kliyente mo na i-record siya, magre-record ka pa rin? No po. Paano mo na yan ngayon magagawa? Ang pag-take note mo, paano mo? How will you do your documentation now? Wala kang recording. Mag-write ka? While interviewing, sir. Wait lang, sir, ha? Ino-note ko lang. Bayan? Paano? Sige daw. Paano? Okay. Respect your client's opinion. Okay? If gusto niya na hindi siya i-record, let it be. So, dyan napapasok kung how good you are in terms of remembering and documenting. Okay? I-take down notes mo. Pasimple kang nagsusulat kung ano yung sinasabi ng kliyente mo. Okay? Confidentiality. What goes on within your interview should not go outside. Dapat will remain inside. Pwede naman po magsulat ka ng importanteng bagay yung hindi mo masyado maintindihan niya. Pwede naman. But, sa case na, for example, yung kliyente mo overflowing na masyado yung information na sinasabi niya and then umiiyak na siya and then ikaw, magsusulat ka pa ba? Sa ganung bagay, where kailangan ng eye contact with your client para ma-feel ng kliyente mo na you are really there to listen. So, again, case-to-case basis. Okay? Isulat mo lang yung, pasimple kang magsulat. But ask your client na you're writing down notes kasi for their documentation. Hindi, patapusin muna bago mag-interview. Pwede naman if may pictographic memory ka o photographic memory. Kung ano yung sinabi ng kliyente mo. Ganon. Or may sharp memory ka. Depende na yan sa technique mo and ground. Then, background knowledge. Dapat may background knowledge ka about your client, paano i-conduct ang interview, and everything. Okay? How to conduct an interview? First is begin where the client is and listen before talking. Mayroon sa Binibining Pilipinas ba yon? When is the right time to talk? And when is the right time to speak? And when is the right time to listen? Di ba maganda yon? So yon, listen before talking. And then, you do observe, especially with the nonverbal communication. Listen or actively listening, questioning, asking probing or clarifying questions, and then you talk, you speak when it is needed. Two is answering personal questions. Dapat alam mo paano mag-answer ng personal questions. Okay? Lalo pa pag feel mo ini-invade ka na ng kliyente mo ang inyong personal life. Na asking about saan ka nakatira, ilan ang anak mo, mga ganong bagay. Yung hindi naman yan talaga yung focus natin. The focus here is not really about me, it's about you, our client, or my client. Then leadership or direction. Alam mo yan, kasi in conducting an interview, dapat alam mo, may leadership skills ka, and then alam mo how to direct the interview, paano mo i-navigate yung interview. And then interpretation, there's an analysis, an assessment of what has been transpired during your interview. Okay, documentation and recording. So documentation is the process that involves data gathering, compiling, and writing a report from the available data. Okay? So, walang trabaho si social worker kung walang documentation. Kaya yung sinabi ko kanina ay kahapon na sinabi mo sa supervisor mo na, ma'am, nag-conduct na ho ako ng ng master listing. Ma'am, nabigyan na cater ko na ho yan. Saan ngayon ang case study mo? Saan ngayon ang photo documentation? Saan ngayon ang activity report? Ang implementation report? Saan? Kung wala yon, wala kang trabaho. Right? So that's how crucial it is na dapat ma-document mo lahat. So a document is a paper containing information or proof of anything according sa dictionary. It's a document, a paper, tangible. It is a record. A record is written, on the other hand, a record is a written account on or a report of the proceedings. A record is what is being put inside a document. Okay? You do record. That's the records or information. What is then a recording? A recording is a process of putting and keeping on file relevant information about the client, the problem, the prognosis, the intervention, and the progress of treatment, the social, economic, and health factors contributing to the situation and the procedures of termination or referral. Everything. Okay, you write in the records, and then that will constitute a document, and then you have to keep it. Why do we write records? Because it shows the process. Where are we so far in the helping process? It is useful in evaluation, especially with the ongoing evaluation. It improves the knowledge. Okay? What can be changed pa sana? And then provide an account of what has been taken place. Kasi nga may a tool of evaluation siya. It provides important information to the agency. Itong mga records, yung mga manuals, yun, examples, those are records, manuals, citizens charter. So those are important records that will spell out kung ano yung community, yung agency talaga. Our supervisory tools. So sa supervisory tools, hihingan ka ng narrative reports, process recording. So yun, doon malalaman ni supervisor na, okay, nagtatrabaho ka pala with those records. For educational purpose, nagagamit ang mga records para dito. For example, sa time na magtuturo, ginagamit yun as sample. So yun. And then source of statistical information about the agency operation. Ilan ang na-serve na PWD, ilan ang na-serve na senior citizen, ilan ang na-serve na mga community or women. So statistics. Okay, but that is through a record. Types of records, we have the intake forms. Okay lang. Medyo malapit na tayo, no? So we have intake forms, basic yan. Then summary records. Gagawa tayo ng summary kung what has been done so far in the case. And then survey report. Hey, using the survey forms or instruments, gagawa tayo ng report. Case study, alam natin yan, paano gumawa ng case study. Summarize process recording, yung mga process recording, what has been transpired, yung mga emotions or feelings, activity, the date, ano yung activity, date, venue, time. Nandun yun sa process recordings. Periodic evaluative summaries through the evaluation forms. Yun. Na-meet ba ang goal or hindi? Or na-meet ba ang objective for that activity or hindi? Transfer summaries. Okay, dito nakapalagay kung what has been done with the client and then ano yung mga hindi pa nagawa. So pag ita-transfer yan ng worker to another worker, malalaman ng new worker na okay, dito tayo magsisimula sa kung ano yung nasimulan so far ng worker, previous worker. Then final evaluative statement, a statement composing kung ano ang whether the goal has been met or not, or the recommendations could also be put in the final evaluative summary. Statement. Okay, next, other documents social workers should be adept in making are the communication letters. Okay, sorry to use this. Wala akong social worker na bobo. Okay? Walang social worker na bobo. Magiging registered social worker ka, dapat ang asset mo ay good in communication, documentation, interviewing. Bawal maging bobo. Tama hindi? Tama, because we're dealing with the people's lives. Nakakahiya din also if imagine, no, you go to the field and hindi mo alam paano gumawa or mag-construct ng presenting problem, paano yung correct grammaring, yun. Actually, dito, ang work ko kasi dito sa office is technical. So sa technical, lahat ng papers on ground, case studies, yun, lahat. Dumadaan kasi dito. And then, na-check talaga namin yung output ng mga workers. And there are few registered social workers who also needs training pa regarding sa proper, lalo yung construct of English. Asset talaga yan. Kasi sabihin ng supervisor mo sa'yo, gumawa ka ng communication letter, isend mo sa Department of Labor and Employment, gumawa, referral letter. Referral letter is a communication. Di mo yan alam, naku, magkakaproblema tayo dyan. Ang case study mo, nako, di ko na lang talaga, dami ko ng experience na gano'n, na medyo, nangihinayang ako kung ako yung magbabasa, kasi hindi ko naman sinasabing, dapat maging perfect yung case study mo. At least, hindi ka gumamit ng mga terms na halatang mali. O yung glaring masyado yung mga errors. May nabasa ako last time, sinabi ng worker na parang manifestation report yun, na sabi, the client penetrated the office. Diba? The use of penetrated, it's very wrong. See? So yun, nakakahiya siya because other professions will see it. And then nakalagay sa baba, Habib Pagilogon, RSW. Nakakahiya. What's your credibility now? Diba? Wala, nakakahiya talaga. So yun. Then project or activity proposals. Marunong ba tayo gumawa ng mga project proposals? Paano gumawa ng title? Rationale, objectives, methodology, budgetary requirement. Alam ba natin paano gumawa nun? Kasi ang daming proposals na dapat natin gawin in field. And then other special reports na dapat natin gawin. Okay. Writing skills includes research. Okay? You must be good in research. Planning and or outlining. Grammar and clarity. Revising and editing. At saka communication skills. So, yon, you must be good in this. And therefore, you are good in doing in writing skills. Okay? Sa grammar talaga at saka sa clarity, dito talaga medyo yung mga social workers mahina. Talaga. Ito talaga, that's true to all. Not just social workers, maybe other professions as well. Pero ang social workers kasi, more on documentation kasi tayo eh. Even though we work with the clients, pero almost half of our work ay documentation. So, dapat marunong talaga tayo dyan. Okay. 9 tips to improve your writing skills. Brush up your grammar basics. Balikan yung grammar. The figures of speech, the parts of speech. Yon, between the subject-verb agreement, was, were, yon. Magbasa ng magbasa para maraming vocabulary. Okay? Na para hindi mo ubusan ng English. Nakakatakot kasi yan. Pag sinabi ng worker na, ay, naubusan na ako ng English, gumagawa ka ng case study. So, ay, gagamitin ko na term. Ang ibig sabihin ko nito ay si client ay nakatira ngayon sa tito ng kanyang mama. So, paano ko to ilalagay yung tito ng kanyang mama? So, yan. Si client ay medyo, very wild. So, anong gagamitin ko aside from wild? Kasi wild is very harsh, quite harsh. So, yung mga ganun, nakakatakot talaga yan. Pag sinabi na ng worker, naubusan na ako ng English. My God. Matakot ka na sa pagka-construct niyan. Kasi, yan. Tumakbo ka talaga sa Google. Okay? Google or ask your supervisor for assistance. Read and study the type of writing you want to improve. Okay? I-base mo naman sa kung ano yung gagawin mo or yung i-write mo na paper. Pick up the right format for the situation. Usually, ang agency ay nagpro-provide naman yan ng right format. May format naman talaga yan. You just have to follow it. Outline before you write. Okay? Wag padalos-dalos. Mag-outline ka muna para at least may backbone ka. May direction ka sa pagsusulat. Be aware of your audience and the appropriate tone for your writing. Okay? Dapat alam mo sino yung audience mo. 6, pay attention to the mechanics of your writing. Don't use complex words when simple words will do. Tama naman. Sa case study, hindi naman kailangang bongga, hypalutinos words. Yung very flowering words, hindi yung kailangan. At least, functional, naiintindihan. And then, huwag kang gumamit ng mga jargons. Yung profession lang natin yung makakaintindi. What if basahin yan ngayon ng judge? Sabihin ng judge, ano bang ibig sabihin mo ng helping relationship? Anong ibig sabihin mo ng social functioning? Which is native to our profession. Vary your sentences. So, iba-iba yung tono. Iba-ibahin mo. Use specific words or phrasing. Okay, wag yung vague or unclear words. Don't repeat yourself. Okay, wag paulit-ulit. Eliminate filler words and filtering your language. Like, ganon. Bawal yan. Then, guide your reader through each of your points. Through the outline that you make. And get your feedback on your writing. Okay? Huwag mahiyang magpa-correct. Do not pretend na alam mo talaga lahat. Okay? Ako, I really like na-appreciate ko na nako-correct yung work ko. Kasi the more na nakukorek yung work ko, the more ako gumagaling. Kaya, ako, excited talaga ako na may pinagawa sa akin na report. Excited ako na isubmit yun sa supervisor ko. Kasi yung supervisor ko, very keen in checking. So yun, hindi naman ako na-offend kasi I'm a work in progress. Di ba? Even the brightest people, okay, also do commit mistakes. Nagkakamali din. So that's why nobody's perfect. Perfect is boring. So you need others to check your paper. Then proofread. Balik-balikin mo if tama na ba or hindi. Then use tech tools as aids, not subtitles. Like tech tools, like tawag nito, pwedeng Grammarly, diba? Gamitin mo yon para makahelp yan. And other also tools. Skillbot, to paraphrase and everything. Okay, ito workshop ko. How do you write your case study, social case study report? First is you put identifying information. Ilagay mo si family ko. Ito, question ko. Dapat bang ilagay, example, ako ang kliyente, Habib Pagilogon. Okay. So sa family composition, nakalagay ang pangalan ko. Is it right or wrong? Sige daw. Lapit na tayo. Is it right or wrong? Tama ba na ilagay yung... Bakit wrong po? Bakit wrong po? Redundant. Correct. Kasi nga sa identifying information, doon na nakalagay ang pangalan mo. Okay? So sa family composition, mga pamilya mo na lang yan. Wag mo na isali yung sarili mo. Kasi magiging redundant na siya. Okay? Presenting problem, we know that. Background information between the client's history, the client family, and then the client's environment. And then, assessment statement, intervention plan, implementation, evaluation, termination, and then lastly is recommendation. Ito yung general format ng comprehensive case study report. Now, makikita nyo, sir, bakit sa medical field or bakit nung na-hospital yung client, yung mama ko or yung papa ko, humingi ako ng tulong sa PCSO, DSWD, isang sentence lang yung assessment. Yes, dalawa kasi yung forms of case study. The brief case study report and the social case study report. Si brief case study report, yun yung isang sentence lang na assessment na kailangan na magpapatunay na ikaw ay nangangailangan talaga ng tulong. Ginagamit yan ng mga medical social workers where their work usually nasa medical field. Referral mostly. So yun. Pero pag usually court ordered siya or kailangan siya ng DSWD if you are working as a barangay social worker, comprehensive yun. Comprehensive. Okay? Pag yung sa hospitals or medical field, usually nag-i-end yan siya sa assessment. Okay? Pero pag comprehensive, may planning yan up until mag-termination. Okay? Okay, move tayo sa number 4. Ano nga yung first? Community resources. Pangalawa, interviewing. Pangatlo, ano yung pangatlo? What's the third? Documentation and recording. Tama ba ako? And then lastly is, fourth is community resources. And then may pang-last pa nito, I guess. So community resources. What is community resources? This means human resource and program services offered by the agencies. Okay? It could be public, semi-public, and private. And then it could also be local, national, and international. So ano yung pinaka-importanting source, yung community resource? It's the human resource. Okay, yun pinaka-importante that we need to mobilize. Aside from the human resource that is present in the community, we also have the programs and services from the agencies na tumutulong sa community. So bakit siya degenerate tool? Kailangan yon para tulungan natin ang i-interview ng ating mga kliyente. The agencies could be public, sa may public or private. Tomorrow, we will be discussing yung types of agencies. Doon ka na lang siya i-discuss. And then, yung agency could be local, within the LGU, national level, or international, outside, abroad. Parang last na to, right? Yep. Okay. Last is the programs and activities. Okay. The program is a primary tool in social work with groups. Okay, that's why we have program development. And which takes place at every meeting and with the worker giving considerable attention to the continuity, sequence, and effects of the program activity on client response or behavior. But on the other hand, the activity may be planned for just one time, depending on the need or situation. Si program, the entire program na set natin for the group. Si activity or the smallest activity or the specific activities na kailangan i-implement for the group. Okay, so the activity dimensions includes prescriptiveness. Okay, prescriptiveness or the rules for the conduct of participation. Ang activity or ang program gives prescribe something. Ito yung dapat nating gawin because this activity calls for it. Then it could also be source of controls para doon itong dimensions, these are also called considerations in making programs and activities. So the activities could also be the source of controls for the group. Then the provision of physical movement. Okay? Ito, pag PWD ang iyong mga kliyente, wag ka naman siguro mag-team building ng jumping, mga ganon. It's very inappropriate. Okay? Then, competence required for performance. Dapat alamin mo yan, i-consider mo yan. Capable ba ang grupo na to na para i-implement or gawin itong activity na to. Then, provision of participant interactiveness. Will this promote interaction with the participants or not? If it is, then continue. If it's not, then pwede natin baguhin. Then the reward structure. Alam natin, pwede tayong magbigay ng reward or not if in case this has been positive or negative. Okay. So, mayroon din tayong tinitingnan na individual variables at saka group variables in making our programs and activities for the group. Pag sinabi nating individual variables, it is on the members of the group. Pag ang group, the group as a whole. So individual variables, titingnan natin yung skills, yung motivation, at saka the on-top control of the members of the group. Si group variables naman, titingnan natin on how solid the group is, the composition of the group, and the mood of the group. That should also affect kung ano yung program and activities natin na i-implement. Again, ang programs and activities ay dapat nakabank siya sa need or interest ng kliyente. Kung hindi siya need or interest ng kliyente, huwag mong gawing program or activity yan. Kasi useless yan. Hindi yan magiging effective for them. Okay, we're done. Tomorrow na to. And then all the rest of the topics. Okay. Questions? Questions po? Tanong? Tanong po. Okay. Kung wala nang tanong, thank you so much. God bless. See you tomorrow for our last topic.